Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Well, guys, we have a special guest with us this week. This is the Alliance Guys podcast. I'm J. Cal. You recognize Mr. DKM, but with us is David Fuller of the IHWE. Sorry, I always mix it up. IHWE. That's the Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Entertainment.
Excellent.
Excellent. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, I messed it up already. I should have let DK do the intro.
We're live, pal.
Yeah, right. Let's run it back. We'll just run it back. And we're here to talk a little bit of wrestling. Of course, we typically cover the National Wrestling Alliance, but we thought we'd show you a little bit more of the wrestling world. Of course, the IHWE was a part of the NWA for a couple of years there back in 2015, David?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the past, present, and future of the I messed it up again. DK, you do it for me.
Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Excellence.
You can just call it IHWE. That's what I do.
That'd be easier for me. So for a lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers, a lot of the listeners, some of them have never got familiar with the NWA till after Billy Corgan purchased it. When you came into the NWA, it was a little bit of a different time and place for the National Wrestling Alliance. At that point, Bruce Tharpe was the president and majority owner of the NWA, and Texas had become quite the center point for the National Wrestling Alliance. It was Texas and Tennessee. It was kind of like the two big areas for the NWA, and you were promoting shows out in Dallas and the Fort Worth area. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the NWA, why you got in the NWA, all that good stuff?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, for having me. I appreciate the invite. So I had maintained a good relationship with Bruce Tharpe, and when he got the NWA, I believe from Bob Trobick, I believe, and Ken Taylor was the Texas guy for so long. And I had actually started going. So obviously I watched the NWA Jim Crockett Promotions, and then I watched Jim Crockett's revamped Dallas NWA in the mid-90s. And then nobody really heard anything about the NWA. You heard what Tony Rumble was doing, and you heard what Cortelluzzo was doing, and you heard about that. And of course, you saw Jim Cornette's, fizzled attempt to do something, which I really liked. I thought it was cool to see the NWA. I was a big NWA fan because Dan the Beast Severn was the world champion. And people can say what they want to about Dan Severn. No more legitimate man to be the world champion than Dan Severn. He could just look at you and probably break your arm just by looking at you. So Dan wasn't a sports entertainer. He was a wrestler. And I think that's where people get confused.
Dave, were you at those shows back in the day when Severn would bring the 10 pounds of gold to NWA Southwest?
Yes, I saw Severn wrestle Rugged Rod Price in May of 1998 for the NWA World title at NWA Southwest. I was there in January of 1999 when he defended against NWA Texas champion Rodney Bonneau, Red Dog Rodney Mack. And then I was there in May when the rematch with Ogawa happened.
Oh, wow.
So I was there for all three Severn appearances, and the guy couldn't have been nicer. He had all of his UFC belts, and you just walk up to him, you just talk to him, and he was just a normal guy. So I was always impressed because, and then, like I said, Severn wasn't a sports entertainer, so he doesn't really get the respect that he deserves. But, people are big marks for Lesnar, and they should be because Brock is amazing. However, go back and respect guys like Severn and Don Fry because they could go in there and they could get it done. They were men. And so, but anyway, so the years go by. I have a love-hate relationship with Ken Taylor just because I was the backyard kid. So, but anyway, we actually did a show together in 04. I actually had the NWA Texas Tag Team Championship change hands on one of my shows. And then in October of 04, we had an NWA Texas Junior Heavyweight Championship change on my show. So I had a little bit of a history, but in 2015, whoever Tharp had running Dallas Fort Worth, whatever happened. I don't remember. And he called me and said, hey, and my deal was a lot different from everybody else's because I said, listen, we're not going to be NWA anybody. Right, WE. We can do a partnership with the NWA. And that's what it started as. The year was a partnership. Everything we did was in partnership. We respected the world title and the national titles and the other world titles. We would keep the titles separate, of course. We would honor the NWA rules, all of that stuff, but everything was in partnership because a lot of I saw promotions would change their branding, and then the agreement was annually. And then the NWA could say, okay, we don't want anything to do with you anymore, or you can leave the NWA. And, people would spend all this money on branding, and then something would happen. That wasn't going to be us. I'm not going to rebrand the whole company just for this to blow up in you because I really didn't know what to expect with Bruce. And that led to the Parade of Champions during WrestleMania week in 2016, which DKM was at. It's funny how things work out. That show was on March 31st, 2016 at the Wrigley Theater. March 31st, 2022 at the Wrigley Theater. Here we go again. So I enjoyed my time with the NWA. They wanted me to have more of a role, and I tried to. I ran social media for the NWA, and I wanted more quality control. I say this now, and hearing it now for me sounds like, it was not. Billy Corgan got a hold of it. Lagana was great about doing the videos and stuff and spotlighting the 10 pounds of gold. I was pushing for that. The Tharp and James Beard were talking about, we need a television deal. And I talked about maybe going to Crackle or Sony and saying, hey, Crackle's got this the new network. It's free. They don't have a whole lot of original sports programming. Let's see if they'll buy a show. Let's see if they'll put something on. And oh, by the way, we've got all these shows happening all across the country. Why don't we develop a YouTube series every week? And why don't we take the best matches from all these other promotions and put them into a weekly YouTube show? We can take the data from that YouTube show and maybe we'll get a rights fee. But just for whatever reason, I wasn't interested. And just some opportunities that were promised to us weren't kept, as far as world title matches and opportunities for moments to take place where we would be in the history books. And I wanted a plan. I wanted a real plan with pen and paper, and I couldn't get it. So when a year after, I decided to just respectfully walk away. I have nothing bad to say about Bruce and James. They treated me awesome. To this day, I get along with both guys. Bruce has always been great. Running the Parade of Champions was a complete nightmare because I had to work with all these other NWA promoters, and hardly any of them got what we were doing. Robert Langdon, the late Chris Lash, they got it. Tony Gibbons up in Tennessee, he got it. A lot of guys got it, but there's so many that didn't, and it was like pulling teeth. And I was hoping to start an annual thing where there would be not necessarily WrestleMania weekend, but something like, 1 year like WrestleCade. WrestleCade has their thing in November. I was hoping to do that for the NWA and say wherever the show's going to happen, we would all come together and either contribute money, we would send talent there, we would do something to all contribute. And if we do enough of these big shows, 4 or 5 a year, that will put the spotlight on the NWA, and then something good will come out of it. But, Bruce and James were doing their best, but, just not enough. I don't think not enough committed people to make it work. Everybody was kind of focused on their territory instead of focused on the whole national brand. And then not too long after, Billy Corgan got a hold of it. So, everything works out.
So I just want to backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
I know that and our pal Doty here in the chat brought up, once Tharp tried to do like a ringside TV show with YouTube with matches from across NWA. Was that in concert with what you were talking about, or was that something separate?
I don't remember that, so that could have
Okay.
been before my time.
Okay.
My thing was I wanted quality control. I wanted flyers. I wanted everybody's show to have 3 camera shoots. I wanted legitimate flyers. I wanted everybody to submit matches from their shows every week, and I wanted somebody like a Greg Anthony. I wanted Greg Anthony to watch every match that came in, because Greg is very opinionated, but Greg knows talent, and Greg knows what a show is supposed to look like. Put Greg in charge. Let him watch every match that comes in, and if we like what we see, we can put it on YouTube. If not, get him out of here, and let's find a promotion that's going to make the NWA look good. That's what we were doing. We were doing 3 camera shoots. Matt Riviera was doing it. Greg, I'm pretty sure Tony Gibbons was doing it with NWA Smoky Mountain. There were plenty of people that were doing this, but there was also other brands that were not. Langdon was doing it. Sherman. Langdon had Joe Exotic on his commentary. I mean, come on. How do you beat that? I mean, that's first-class entertainment right there.
How wild is that all these years later? I mean, I remember seeing those pictures, and I as a fan of the NWA, and DK knows that, I go back. 2006 is when I really started diving into trying to create content for the promotional reasons for the NWA. And so, like, I've been following this ship for a long time, and we finally got to a point where technology caught up to what some of the fans were hoping for, that, this whole YouTube thing, like, that wasn't around in 2006, or it was very, very infant in its infancy.
Sure. Yes.
And so for seeing stuff like this happen now, and then you see these shows, and we're watching all the shows that we can, because we're trying to help support the NWA. We're trying to help drive those numbers. And you see a guy like Joe Exotic, you have no idea what to think about the guy. And then a couple years later, he's got a Netflix documentary. What's going on?
He should have been the general manager of the NWA. But it would have been great. We'd all be living in the success of it somehow. But
rich.
Yeah. So I mean, I wasn't. Maybe I don't know about the ringside deal, but I know, like I said, I wanted people to submit. I wanted good promotions, and I wanted people submitting footage. Tharp said he was taking the Parade of Champions show to television studios, and he was using that to sell for television. So I mean, that's what he thought of Parade of Champions. And Parade of Champions, I thought we spent oodles amount of money. We had a nice venue. I mean, DCAM was there. We had Jim Cornette. We had the top of the top. So, I mean, I wanted, the 10 pounds of gold was a fantastic idea. I wish we would have actually thought of it and put that into motion. Taking Tim Storm and taking him all over the country and educating people on him, fantastic idea. Wish we would have done it. We had Jack Stane, and I just wanted people to see Jack Stane. There's this monster as the NWA World Champion. We had Rob Conway, and Rob Conway, I guarantee you, most people would have never even blinked at as a world champion. He's one of the hardest working guys I've ever seen, and he's a solid hand. We've got these workers and these personalities. Let's get them out there. And at the end of the day, it was just, and I don't know. I don't know why. I just couldn't. You pound your fist at a door for so long, and the door doesn't open, and then you just get tired of pounding your fist.
Did you ever imagine back then, like you said it, with how well received the 10 pounds of gold was? Could you have imagined back then how popular Tim Storm was with the general wrestling community? I knew people who had no connection to the NWA. I don't want to say they didn't know what it was. They just didn't care. But then these 10 pounds of gold series hit, and you meet Tim Storm and Dave Lagana, Billy Corgan, Dave Marquez. They turn that camera on Tim Storm, and you get to meet the person behind the wrestler. And it really did open him up in a way. It made him vulnerable, but it also kept him very protected, and he looked very strong in it. And he became so well respected and so well received. Could you have ever imagined that happening when he was working with you guys back in the day?
You never know how well somebody's going to appeal to the masses. But Tim is a once in a lifetime human being, number one. I met him in 2001. I managed him on some show in Fort Worth that nobody was at. And I met him then. And he had long hair, big beard, mustache. He didn't look anything like he's got the, he looks fantastic now.
Cowboy Tim Storm.
Yes, that sounds about right. And then in 2008, he came to Dallas, and he doesn't even want to talk about this, and I will never show any footage because I'm so ashamed. This rundown room in the back of a flea market, and he's my tag team partner in an IHW tag team match. He did that for me. So, I mean, he's just got a heart of gold. He's never changed. Even when he got this spike and his popularity just went soar through the roof, he never changed. I got text messages from him and me just while he's on the road, and he treats me the exact same. He's just a good guy. And I mean, if you told me to make a list of 5 guys that I worked with, that if you take them out to the masses, who will stay? Tim is on that list, and Tim is probably at the top because he's such a likable. He's an everyman. He's a likable guy because he's just like that guy at home watching his television. So I mean, he's easily likable because he doesn't think he's better than anybody, and who doesn't want to like a guy like that?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, and thank you for spending some time talking about the NWA with us. But let's talk about the roots of IHWE. Let's talk about that tradition, that history. You didn't just start overnight. You guys have been working at this for many, many years, from the backyard to the Parade of Champions. Let's talk about that. How did we get from point A to point B? Because as we were discussing a little bit off the air, you guys self-admittedly were basically a backyard wrestling promotion. How did you go from backyard wrestling to the Parade of Champions?
So if I wrote this and sent it to a manuscript writer, they probably would say it's pure fiction. So, I mean, I 2 things happened at once. I met Johnny Valentine at a gym here in Fort Worth in 1998, and I begged him to train me. And, I mean, how lucky did I get to meet one of the just Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio of the golden era of wrestling. And then at the same time, me and my 2 best friends were just rolling around the backyard. And it was the Attitude Era. It was ECW. And we're like, well, what's cooler than Extreme? Insane. Let's be insane hardcore wrestling. Just the dumbest thing. And now we're bringing it back. So I just put over my own product. So anyway, we just, and it's just us rolling around. We didn't, and then a few months later, a guy has a ring. He used to run out to the Von Erichs. And, so, hey, can we use your ring? Sure, $100. All right, we'll give you $100. Bring it to the backyard. So, and then Rodney Mack wins the NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship on a Friday night. Saturday morning, we're doing a show, our first show with the ring. And Rodney stops by and does a match. And the NWA promoter just wanted to destroy Rodney. Why are you doing that backyard show? And Rodney's like, well, they pay me more than you do. So, Jazz is on ECW Hardcore TV, and then she's coming to our backyard. So, I mean, we had a ring. We weren't really doing a lot of the crazy stuff that you saw with the backyard wrestling. And then Necro Butcher comes in January of 1999, and he calls me, hey, I've been doing this thing with Black Bart. I'm Private Dylan Summers, but I hate it. I got an idea to do this thing called Necro Butcher. Can I come up and do it? And I said, okay. He comes up and does it, and the rest is history. So, I mean, they came along, and then we started booking more and more people from the NWA and more professionals, and we had our guys, Kevin being one of them, one of your guys. And, it was just us screwing around, but we had enough real wrestlers on the show, and we would rent 50 chairs and put them all around the ring, sell tickets for $5 a piece, and they all sold out every show once a month. We had a website. I mean, it was
more than some legitimate promoters.
Yeah. I mean, this was a 1999 website, so you got to remember angelfire.com // and I mean our main source of contact was AOL Instant Messenger.
Yep.
So I mean, and we all had jobs. Balls, Danny, the 2 founding fathers, Ronnie, Chris Wolf. It was his backyard. So he hosted the shows. Danny Balls was in charge of renting the chairs, and the promoting and the booking fell onto me. Never understood to this day how that happened, but it is what it is. So I decided, okay, I'll take it upon myself. I'm 16 years old. I am a junior in high school. This should not be happening. And it was just a crazy time. Kevin will attest to it. It was just a crazy time. We had no idea what we were doing. And we did IHW for a few years in warehouses and boxing gyms. In 2008, I decided to bring the company back, but it was 2008. We're not going to do what we did in 1999. So let me add the E to it, and let's go with a more hybrid style of the independent North American and Japanese style.
David,
yes, sir.
Before you continue, I have to know, what was the website address? Do you still remember it?
Oh, I have no idea. I can probably find it. I have an old program here somewhere. I will look it up and send it to you. So it's a ridiculous Angelfire or Geocities.com / I know that.
Sure.
So
I have an affinity for those kind of websites. When we started the NWA fan site is what we originally called. We were on Zanga, which nobody even used. And it was the absolute worst. And I used that for about 6 months before we got on to something better. But yeah, I have an affinity for those old 99 websites.
Yeah,
I used
terrible.
I used to help do a lot of things out here in SoCal too, with SoCal Uncensored. So I remember seeing a lot of the local websites then in the late 90s, early 2000s.
So you know Jeff Dino, right?
Oh yeah, Jeff Dino very well.
He made some of our belts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love Jeff. He's great. Great entrepreneur.
Yeah, he personifies what I think of as somebody in the wrestling business who won't take no for an answer, and certainly is going to do it his way.
Yes.
And I mean that in the best way possible.
Sure.
Because his promotion, I mean, we're talking about you, but just real quick with Jeff.
That's fine.
They haven't been able to run most of the pandemic, but that didn't prevent him from still doing the boxes.
He does Wrestle Warehouse.
Yeah, the Wrestle Warehouse boxes. He rents out a ring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really gets after it. And
yes,
we've had a lot of disagreements in the past, but I've never disrespected him in terms of his hustle and his work rate. Not in the ring work rate, but like literally out there pushing his product and getting it out there. I've always been impressed by that guy.
Yeah, he's great. I love Jeff. Anytime I've needed a belt, he's never taken advantage. He works with me on the proof. He's just very cool. So Jeff, shout out. You're the man. Appreciate you. So IHWE. So it's funny because I tweeted this at Kevin the other day. So Kevin was one of the hottest guys in the state of Texas in 2008. Kevin came and did that show that night. So Kevin was on one of the first IHW shows. Kevin was on the first IHWE show, and the main event that night, I got beat by my brother-in-law, Chris Wolf, for the IHW championship, and then a few guys, Chad Hart, Gary Hart's son, being one of them, came out and jumped me. Kevin comes out with some other guys, SB1, trained by Skandar Akbar. And they come out and they save me. And Chico Torres, world-class championship wrestling alumni, they all come out and save me. And we end up doing a 10-man tag. Me and Kevin and three other guys, Chico Torres being one of them, against Chris Wolf, Brian Ryder, two Founding Fathers, and Chad Hart, Gary Hart's son. And we did a 10-man. And that's how we closed the very first IHWE show. Also that night, we had Bill Mercer, Mark Lawrence, and Skandar Akbar together. And that was very important. That took me 4 months. I bugged Bill Mercer beyond belief. And I bugged him and bugged him and bugged him. And I finally got Bill Mercer on board. I wanted him to do commentary. He said he hadn't done commentary in a while. He wouldn't be comfortable with that. So I said, okay, just come out. So then I got Bill on board. Mark Lawrence jumped on board once Bill was on board. And then I got Akbar to come on. And just seeing them, I'm putting the show together that night. And I look over in the corner, and they're just sitting there. And they're just sitting there talking. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I just stopped for a minute. And people are coming to me, what do I do? And I'm like, hold on. And I just sat there for a minute. Because I'm like, I'm never going to get this moment back.
Right.
And we lost Akbar, I think, 2 years later. And, I just sat there, and I was like, wow, this is my show. This is the backyard show. And I'm sitting here watching these three guys, and they're just loving every minute of it. and they just went out and did their thing. And, you know, it was just so cool. So that brought in the new wave of IHWE. So IHWE went on to run really great shows. Jim Cornette, we had Johnny Gargano, we've had Kyle O'Reilly, Lance Archer, Ember Moon worked for us a few times. Athena, she's back to being Athena. You know, Keith Lee. We've had the elite work for IHWE. We've been very blessed, and I'm extremely proud of it. You know, but I'm not ashamed of IHW. We started there, and I'm not ashamed of any of it. We came from the backyard, and I never finished training. Johnny Valentine lost his school. I never finished training. I kind of learned as I went. Not the best idea, you know. Kevin was smarter. Kevin went through it with Rodney, and you know, Kevin reaped the rewards for it. I took a lot of, you know, crap over the years. Some of it I earned, some of it probably not, but some of it I earned. You know, so it took me a while to get my head out of my rear end. You know, IHW wasn't known for great shows. It was known for just unique, unorthodox stuff with guys like Necro Butcher and Kevin running around as the Jabador or the Jinsui Kyoki, whoever he was at the time. And, you know, so, I mean, and then we evolved to IHWE, and IHWE has enjoyed a great run since.
So that begs the question. I mean, now going through the middle of a global pandemic, WrestleMania is coming to Texas. What inspired you to come back? What inspired you to bring back those iconic letters? And what made you decide to start promoting wrestling again?
My dad had passed away a few years ago, and I was trying to get to 100 shows. I did. And then we tried to do a couple of shows at the end of 2017, and they were not successful at all. So I took some time. Keith Elliott Greenberg interviewed me for the Too Sweet, The Rise of the Independent Wrestling Revolution book, which is a fantastic, fantastic book. And me and Keith talked for about 3 hours. He ended up giving me, I think, 2.5 pages in that book, which is probably 2 pages more than I deserve. But Keith and I said, man, and Keith just put me over, and Keith said, man, I just turned 40. And Texas has become, like, for a long time, Texas was an okay place to go work, but you really didn't make it until you left Texas. Now, Texas is the place to go and the place to work. You have so many great promotions out there. So many of the top independent promotions and so many top talent here that I wanted to work with these individuals. And my son's a little older now. And, you know, I want to come back and I want to contribute and give this thing another shot. And, you know, I just want to, I don't know. I just want to, there's still something there. I still have, Kevin, right on. I still have an urge to do this. And I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't really know. I just, I should have stopped at Parade of Champions. That was the perfect night. Just everything went right. And
That's
after
fair.
So many errors, everything went right. But I don't know. There's a lot of talent I want to work with. I get excited looking at these young men and women that are dominating the state. And I get excited. So I want to work with those individuals. And, you know, if I can do it, I want to do it for a little bit longer until I just absolutely can't anymore. And then I'll ride off into the sunset.
I mean, I think that's a fair thing to do. You know, we being the fan base always think, you know, we could do this. This is so easy. It's so much, you know, all you got to do is come up with a good talent and a good venue, right? That's all you need. And well, you need the right promotion, but I mean, that's fine. That's all easy to do, but generally that's not as easy as it sounds. And we all live in this, you know, fake world where we think it's going to be super easy, and it's not. What are some of the things that you've learned about promoting wrestling, and what are some of the mistakes that you have learned from the most? That's
a good question. No matter who you have on the card, if you don't promote it, no one's going to come. You could have the Donald at the show, and if nobody knows about it, then they're not coming. So you have to get out there, and a lot of people rely on social media. Just social media. Just social media. Social media is a big component, a bigger component than it ever has been. But you got to go out and hand out posters. You got to go shake hands, or fist bump or elbow bump. Today's world, you got to go out there and meet people. And I'm big on walking into a business saying, "I'm David Fuller. This is what I do. Here's what we do." And I've got a whole. I've been messaging different people in the area, brand community leaders, entrepreneurs of different people in Fort Worth, and saying, "Hey, here's what we do. Come help us. Come promote us. Come create awareness or something. Let's make this thing hot again, so we can do cool stuff in the city of Fort Worth. And let's be about Fort Worth." Let me see. Mistakes. Listening to everybody is never good. You can filter listening to the wrong people, because when you're riding high, everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone wants to latch on and grab that relevancy. And whatever winning formula that you're drinking, they want it. So they're going to latch on and try to put a straw somewhere and get some of it. When you're not so hot, people will avoid you like COVID. I'm not going to say the plague anymore, because the plague is COVID. So hashtag COVID-19. Everybody will see it. So anyway, I mean, that's what, mistakes along the way, just arrogant, thinking you can do no wrong, insulting the fans' intelligence, not addressing the fans' concerns. I've seen sometimes, not lately, but years ago, I would go to different promotions websites and I would see fans commenting on stuff they didn't like, and the promotion would either lash out at them or just ignore them. That's money walking out of your door. So I would message them and say, "Hey, what did you like and not like? Here's some tickets. Come see what we have to offer." Because I guarantee you, I'll give you tickets now. You'll be buying them for the next show. So, I mean, you have to be assertive as well. With the talent, you tell them what they can and kind of go out there and do. Don't let the talent run roughshod. At the same time, respect the talent. It's a lot of things. I've learned a lot over the years. I used to allow anybody that said they were a wrestler to wrestle. I would allow anybody. And that killed the show. It was buddy wrestling. It was hobbyist wrestling. It was weekend warrior wrestling. And the crowd said, "This is crap. Everybody, my neighbor could wrestle here," because that's what these guys look like. They look like our neighbors. It took a long time for me to stop doing that and say, you know what? We're going to have real wrestlers here. More real wrestlers than not. And then the crowd started growing. And, you got to avoid the negativity, because you're going to get talked about. Even if you're successful, there are going to be people that are dogging on you. Doing the Parade of Champions, oh my God, I heard everything you could possibly think of, because people they never heard of me before. So failure. Thankfully, it wasn't. One thing could have went wrong, and it would have been. I'm so grateful that it wasn't. I think we got lucky. It's a collaborative years of experience that led me to my successes and failures. Also, the most important thing, you need to embrace your failures and learn from them. And you need to brag about your failures just as much as your successes. Also, if you want to be the promoter, you have to accept the responsibility for when the show sucks, if you want to take the credit for the show being good. Everybody wants to take credit when the show's great. I mean, my thing is, I think the promoter gets the people to the show. I think the talent brings them back. So, but the promoter, everybody wants to be a boss until the lights go out in Crowley, Devin, and then they don't know what to do. See, they don't know what to do. Everybody wants to be the boss until the power goes out. And
it was never proven that I did that.
And then, no, not at all. You captured the greatest moment from that night on your phone. I'm so grateful. And then I got Ray Rowe yelling at everybody backstage to go out there and give everybody a memory they'll be talking about for the rest of their life. So the talent decided to keep that show going that night, for the record. Then a lot of times when the show sucks or it's a failure, the promoter, it's the weather, or this baseball team was playing, or there's another gas station that opened up on the corner. I hear that one a lot. Hey, Conrad. I hear that one a lot. So, I mean, just come on, put your big boy pants on and just accept the fact that you either booked it on the wrong day, You didn't have the right attractions. And here's the thing with me. I had a couple of shows that I ran in 2017. The crowd wasn't there. So I can sit there and blame the attractions. I can blame the promotional materials and the promotional campaign. I can blame the date. Here's the bottom line. I signed off on all of it. So I've got to accept responsibility. No matter what the cause was for that audience being low, it's all on my doorstep. So you can't just sit there and say, this show was great because of me, rah, 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 and then say, I have no idea why this show was a failure. No. That's BS. You know why. Get kicked off the horse, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get back on it, and learn from it.
I mean, I think that's some solid advice, not just for promoting wrestling, but any endeavor that you try.
Correct.
Ownership and responsibility has become passé in this new brave world that we live in.
Correct.
And it's refreshing to hear you come out and say, like, hey, if the show's a success, it's because I signed off on it. And if it sucked, I also signed off on it. I think that's a super awesome way to look at it. Because I think we live in a world now where people just don't take that personal responsibility. And it's kind of, it sucks. Because I think if you can come out and say, hey, I got my ass kicked on this show, but I'm not going to get it kicked on the next show because I learned from my mistakes and now I'm going to be better.
Right.
That's kind of like how I try to live my life. And I think it's pretty cool that that's your philosophy when it comes to promoting wrestling.
Well, I got to teach my son. My son's 8 years old. So, I mean, I can't show him the way to grow up if I'm just telling him to pass the buck and, not accept responsibility. So if his dad can't do it, then how am I going to teach it?
I mean, I think that's...
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
What can you tell us about the upcoming show that we're going to have?
Yeah, so it's going to be at the Wrigley Theater, home of the Parade of Champions. It's a historic landmark here in Fort Worth. I believe it's 70 years old. I believe Devin was one of the people that saw movies there when he was younger. Is that correct, Devin?
I refuse to comment on that.
All right. Maybe that was a different Devin. He looked similar to you. But anyway, it's a historic venue. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's spacious. It's in a decent neighborhood. There's free parking. And we're going to be doing an all-day thing. We're going to have the Southern Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which is a Hall of Fame we started years ago. It's more of an archival Hall of Fame. We're working with the University of Texas Arlington and the archival libraries about them kind of hosting the Hall of Fame as an archival thing where people can go read about these people.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're going to have inductions at 3:00. We're going to have IHW at 5 and IHWE at 7. So here's the deal with IHW and IHWE. IHW is going to be insane hardcore wrestling like it was before. It won't necessarily be like it was. It'll be kind of a TV PG. It'll kind of be like a TV PG-13 or a TVMA. It won't be like it was before. It'll be different athletes, different kind of matches, different characters as opposed to what you would see at IHWE. IHWE is PG all the way. So some of the characters, some of the unique, unorthodox individuals, you may not see in IHWE. Come to IHW and see them. Maybe some outlandish matches that you wouldn't see. Oh, come see them at IHW. So, it's something that we're trying. We've never done it before. IHW has a unique history. It has its own championship, its own legacy, if you can even use that word with IHW. And then IHWE has it as well. So Old School Hustle is the premier event. This will be the 7th one in history. It's at 7 p.m. that night. We just announced today, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tim Storm will be wrestling that night. A rare opportunity to see Tim lace up the boots here in Fort Worth. We've got a lot of great athletes on the show. We've got guests appearing. We're going to have Lee Nayland of the TCU Horned Frogs, who played 6 seasons in the NBA. He's the coach of the Fort Worth Funk basketball team. We're going to have Rob Hall, Brick Savage, who is a world record bodybuilder who actually holds a world record. I think he did 2,055 pounds in 30 seconds. So he legitimately holds a world record. His father, Bobby Too Bad, is a former NWA Texas Tag Team Champion. Okay. So he'll be appearing. IHW is going to have the monstrous but cuddly Sam Stackhouse, who has been seen lately in Game Changer Wrestling. And this guy is a this guy is a walking attraction, but he's an attraction that can do athletic moves. He can do a moonsault, and he's over 500 pounds. He's a once in a lifetime athlete. And yes, we don't hold it against him that he tried to destroy Hornswoggle at the Hammerstein Ballroom, but that's okay. But Sam Stackhouse will be there along with several other individuals. The flyer just went out. We're going to have Blair Onyx. We're going to have Morgan Mercy on IHWE. We're going to have Laney Luck and Amaris Blair. IHWETX.com. Follow IHWE on the social media channels. But it'll be an interesting day because you'll have IHW, which is on this side of the spectrum, and then IHWE for more traditional wrestling fans.
And is that the plan going forward then to manage the two brands separately, but continuously promoting events together?
I would like to, because I think there's enough talent in Texas, and I think it could serve. Because I'm one of the rare people that thinks ECW on Sci-Fi could have worked had it been done a little differently.
Sure.
I'm one of the few people so that's how I see this. I see this as going to a SmackDown taping and seeing ECW on Sci-Fi tapes first. So that's how I see this. IHWE has a solid fan base, and IHW is going to take a long time to get there. So it's just going to take brand building. I don't know if this is necessarily going to work. I'll be honest with you. I'm not one of these people that goes, I got a great idea. I have a decent idea. Let's see if it works. I think if the talent is different and the matches and the stories are unique as opposed to the more traditional IHWE, I think there is a value there because not everybody wants to see PG wrestling. I think it works well for families, but I think there's an audience out there that maybe wants to see a little different. And maybe that is what IHW to cater to.
I think IHW would be looking more at the college age market.
Yes.
High school, college age.
Yes.
Go to Crockett Row when it's done.
Right. I agree. And I think that's a good assertion. And I think that's a good demographic. If you don't have a family and it's just you and your date that night, come see IHW. Come see IHW. Or it's just
you and the boys, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. If you don't mind a little grittier product, then, come see IHW. If you want to bring the whole family and you want clean cut wrestling, come to IHWE. I'm trying to appeal to more than one demographic. And I'm also trying to give more talent opportunities. There are some great talents out there, but maybe they're have less experience. So maybe IHW is. I said it the other day to one of my team members. I said, "Dude, we can throw the camera on, and there could be nobody in the crowd at IHW. I'm fine with that." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You just had to be at the old IHW. I mean, it would look normal." This will take time, but if we shoot it differently and we present it differently, like both IHWE and IHW are going to have their own YouTube series.
That's a smart way to do it.
So I mean, it's all about how we present it. And John Carpenter's Halloween, the original, he shot it in a way where we really didn't know who was chasing who and who was doing what to who. We just walked out of there and assumed. So I'm trying to use that philosophy as well.
Well, I think that's awesome. And of course, we've been talking about it over the last few weeks on the Alliance Guys podcast. I let Mr. DKM know too that he has carte blanche to post the flyers and everything else on the website.
Thank you.
We will be advocating for our new friends in the Fort Worth area to check you guys out WrestleMania weekend and beyond. So we do appreciate your time, David. We know you got to get going here, but thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
I hope I didn't take too much time, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
No, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, David.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, David.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that's WrestleMania weekend. If you guys are coming out to Fort Worth, Dallas, to be a part of that big 2-day show with Vincent Kennedy McMahon and company, I mean, stop by. Check out what they're doing in Fort Worth. Check out what they're doing with IHWE. I had to look down to make sure I had it right. You got the belt right there.
Well, this is a new championship that IHWE is going to be featuring. I don't know if we'll crown it on the 31st, but we'll certainly be looking to fill it soon. But it's the Excellence Championship. excellence, the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. And
Go ahead, sorry.
And, it's kind of in old WWF, the world title was put on the most popular, biggest money draw, Bruno, Pedro. And the Intercontinental title was put on the technical wrestler. And so this title, this championship, see it again, it's going to be all across our social media. You'll notice that the side plates have the social media logos. And so it's going to be a true.
I gotta ask because Facebook and Instagram are all meta now. You need to add another plate, maybe TikTok.
We might. We got Instagram. We got Twitter. We got YouTube.
Tumblr.
Tumblr. Anyone still use Tumblr besides you?
No, I'm the only one. It's just me and cats. That's it.
But it's going to be a true interactive championship. We're going to be listening to the fans out in the social media range. They'll even have chances sometimes to determine who the challengers are going to be, or maybe if we need stipulations on a match.
That's cool, man.
It's basically going to be one fall, 15 minutes of intense wrestling. And the person who holds that is going to be seen across social media, and they are going to be kind of the face of IHWE as far as being able to connect with the fans. You're going to have to pay to come see our world champion wrestle.
But your excellence champion will be everywhere that social media is, and I think that's pretty cool. And of course, Mr. DKM, you could always post these matches when they're happening on the Alliance website or on our social medias, because I'm sure our fans would like to check out those matches as well.
Oh, we'll be linking. Don't worry.
So that was cool. That was something different. I do appreciate David for coming on. I've never personally met David, but I know he's a good friend of yours, DK, and he's somebody who I've known of for a long time, but I never actually got to speak with. So that was a very cool experience. And again, we wish you guys a bunch of luck come WrestleMania weekend. But this is the Alliance Guys podcast, and we're here to talk NWA, and we talk all things NWA. And I'm talking POWERRR Trip, even though it's already done. We're talking USA. We're talking POWERRR, and we also talk the Crockett Cup. Now, we're not going to get too much into the Crockett Cup because, there's only 2 matches announced so far. But we're going to get to a little bit of everything, so we're glad you guys are here with us. I see a bunch of our friends are in the chat. Shout out to Devin Dowling. Sorry about the flood in the basement, man. That sucks. I hope you guys stay safe. I hope you can get that water out of there and that you guys are doing okay. Everyone else, I hope you're doing well. I see my buddy Willie Bowen's in the house. Big Chris Dog is here. I see Rosville's in the house. And, of course, our good personal friend Dave Scooby is in the house. All good things, man. Appreciate you guys being here. We're not going to wait any longer. We're going to talk about the National Wrestling Alliance. We're going to talk about the World's Heavyweight Champion. As promised, as teased on the pre-party, we're going to get your take, Mr. Devin Mercer, on the World's Heavyweight Champion, Mack Cardona. A lot of people have a lot of things to say. What do you have to say about the World Heavyweight Champion?
Boy, this is one of those really mixed feeling moments. And I want to start out by saying I have nothing against Mack Cardona. I did not like some of the way this was booked and put together. I mean, he only showed up in December.
Yeah.
He had like 2 matches on POWERRR, and one of them was,
we just got the second match.
I was going to say, and one of them was this week after he won the title. And there's an old saying, the money's in the chase. That's why heels had a tendency to hold titles so the baby faces could chase them. And I feel like this could have been a long-term program if you're going to use Cardona and really built it up right. And so in that level, I feel like there's a little bit of a letdown that he basically comes in, wrestles a match on Power, wins the title. I do not think he is as successfully pulling his gimmick in the NWA as he did in, Game Changer Wrestling. Let's be honest, his thing in Game Changer is to be totally against what it is. He also hasn't really held titles very long, and I don't know if that's part of his gimmick too, because the truth is he doesn't, I think he knows he has value if he doesn't stay anywhere too long, because then people don't get tired of him.
Yeah, what's the old adage? Better to walk away and leave them wanting more than to burn out, right? Something like that.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, I'm a little bit iffy. And then the last part of the booking thing, I don't know that the moment Trevor Murdoch loses the title, that now all of a sudden we got Nick Aldis back in the thing. And, you have to be honest at this point and say it's 50-50 that Aldis will win the title back.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that he won't, right? I mean, look at the way that the NWA painted this picture, and it really sucks for Trevor Murdoch, because the top people who could have challenged for him, the top contenders in the NWA, the stars, kind of bowed out and said, I'm not going to go after Murdoch while he's champion. So Aldis, the first guy that should have got that rematch, bowed out. The Pope bowed out. And the only person that got close to challenging for that title was Jackson.
Tyrus bowed out.
That you're right. Tyrus did bow out, but Tyrus also hasn't won his 7 matches yet. So I mean, he technically has an out clause because he hadn't wrestled 7 times successfully. But you're right. He bowed out. So what we got was Attila Khan and Gangrel and Mike Knox, none of which were regular NWA wrestlers when they challenged for the 10 pounds of gold. And that's a little bit of insulting, because we didn't get to see that match with Jack Stain. We didn't get to see Anthony Mayweather. We didn't get to see Tom Latimer. We didn't get to see the best of the NWA had to offer against Trevor Murdoch. We saw the best of what was left. And so I kind of feel like that was a very, very much a hindrance for the success of Trevor Murdoch as his run as champion. And I think in the long-lasting effects, he's always going to be a respected guy, Trevor Murdoch, but he's not going to be looked at as one of the best, as one of the greats. He didn't get the opportunity.
No, I mean, he was booked totally wrong. Let's take a look. He wins the title. Their next major event, by any means necessary or whatever it was kind of like this POWERRR Trip.
Right.
He didn't defend the title. He was in a tag team match. And who was, and then at the end of that event, he gets laid out. So then he makes his first NWA title defense against the guy that laid him out, Mike Knox. He does manage to win, but then he gets laid out again. All right. Then the next time we see him defend the title in the NWA, it's once again against Mike Knox, and he once again gets laid out again. And then he puts the title up, he gets a match with Cardona and loses. And obviously I haven't saw the match, so I don't know if there's an out for it or not. But it almost doesn't matter at this point. And so that's all bad booking in my view. Cardona is champion? I don't know. I mean, the guy out there, he hustles. We were talking about hustling earlier. He goes everywhere. He tweets everything. He he does what he can do to get out there and get the title out there. So, I mean, in that essence, I don't have anything against him. And if they want to use him as a long-term champion and doing that type of thing, hey, that can be to their advantage. But they've also kind of told the rest of the NWA talent that's in there and working for them, none of you are good enough. We talked about NWA Smoky Mountain and Tony Givens. Tony Givens once left the NWA Smoky Mountain, NWA Southeast, whatever it was before it was that title, and whatever it became after it was that title or something. I don't remember all the things. And on Jason Kincaid for 5 years. And we were supposed to be impressed with the fact that Jason Kincaid held the title for 5 years. But after a while, it kind of became, because they made a big deal that, they only put the title on worthy people and worthy challengers and everything like that. So basically what you told me is for 5 years, they don't have any other worthy wrestlers in their promotion. Because you had to protect the title from all your wrestlers. And of course, when he finally did drop it, it was to, Chase Owens. Which, was a fine ending or whatever to their long rivalry. But, again, you're basically telling me no one in your promotion is worth a championship. And I kind of feel like that's what the NWA did here. They kind of said, we don't really have anybody that's worth being a world champion. We didn't even. Dave Scooby goes, the NWA went for a feel-good moment in St. Louis with Harley Trevor tribute. Looks like they had no plans going forward with him when he went against Aldis. And that basically seems to be true. That it's like, yeah, we want him to win, but we don't know what to do with him now that he won. The old saying, the car chasing the dog and wouldn't know what to do if the dog chasing the car and wouldn't know what to do if a cop won. It was like, okay, here we're going to have, we said the same thing when they crowned the women tag team champions. It's like they wanted this big moment, but they had no plans of what to do after they crowned the women tag team champions.
Well, and then, getting back to Cardona, right? And you said it yourself. He's out there hustling. Now, we know these matches were booked well before he won the title, but he's has a pretty big schedule coming up in the next few weeks. This weekend he's wrestling against Jordan Grace in a rematch at Impact's No Surrender for that digital media championship. Now, what we'll be telling is if he wears the 10 pounds of gold there too. Now, I imagine he wouldn't because it's an intergender match. It's also Impact Wrestling, but Impact Wrestling is not unafraid of opening that forbidden door. We've seen it with Mickie James in the WWE. We saw it Mickie James in the NWA. So also with Deonna Purrazzo. So it wouldn't surprise me if Cardona shows up with that NWA championship, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't. Other matches that he has lined up in the next few weeks, he's going to be teaming with Brian Myers, his tag team partner from the WWE. They're going to take on Joey Janela and Sean Waltman, X-Pac, at Game Changer Wrestling right here in Los Angeles. Now, that's not my cup of tea. I won't be there, but I think it's pretty exciting that that match is going to be taking place. That's a legitimate tag team that's going to be wrestling at Game Changer Wrestling. Then on March the 6th, he's going to be at River City Wrestling, and he's going to be wrestling against the Mysterious Q at River City Wrestling Smoke Show, and that's in San Antonio, Texas. And again, all these flyers are now updated with him holding the 10 pounds of gold. He's going to be wrestling March 13th with Brian Myers against the Hardy Boys at Big Time Wrestling. Again, these flyers represent Cardona holding the 10 pounds of gold. And then, of course, April 19th in West Virginia at All-Star Wrestling, their 16-year anniversary show against Davey Richards. So no title match has been announced yet, except for Nick Aldis March 20th at the Crockett Cup. But you could see that the World's Heavyweight Champion has already got these bookings, and he's bringing that title to each of these promotions. And whether he defends it or not, the fact that he's carrying that belt all across the country is very meaningful, and will help draw more attention to the NWA. We famously spoke about Blue Demon Jr. taking that title when he wrestled in the UK and when he wrestled in France, but he also brought that belt to Japan, and that was meaningful. We talked about Colt Cabana, who wore that NWA Worlds Championship when he was in Pro Wrestling Noah. These are very meaningful moments for the World's Heavyweight Champion to be recognized as such internationally. And of course, I mean, we're talking about wrestling promotions that aren't currently associated with the NWA now featuring the World's Heavyweight Champion on their shows. And like I gave you 5 shows total where he's going to be. And I think that's pretty cool. What are your thoughts on this the set schedule that Cardona has and him taking the NWA title all around, DK?
Well, it's good if he's used right. I mean, I'm assuming that these people are bringing him in as a draw, someone to help put butts in seats, so to speak. And so if he comes in and does that, then that's a good thing. And if he looks good in the matches he's in, that's a good thing. He's going to be wrestling, what'd you say, Darling Grace again. Well, what if he loses? Is that the image you want, that your NWA World Champion loses to a 5', nothing female?
Well, I mean, I've seen her workout photos. I wouldn't call Jordan Lynn Grace nothing, but I hear what you're saying.
Look, I stood next to Jordan Grace. I watched her and Miranda Gordy, fight all over the place right next to me. Literally, I had her booty in my face at one point.
Very nice.
And I have nothing against her, but she's, the images make her look like she's this, big hulking woman, and the truth is she's not. She's short. She's hourglass shaped, but overall she's small. And so this isn't something I'd want the NWA World Champion doing. It's going into a match with her, and then especially if he ends up losing, even if he's screw jobbed, it's just not it's just I don't care what's going to go on. Brock Lesnar's not going to lose to Charlotte Flair.
No matter how good she is.
No matter how good she is, no matter what you think, Bobby Lashley's not going to lose to Sasha Banks or Becky Lynch or even Ronda Rousey. And you got to help me suspend my disbelief. If you want me to say putting a title on Matt Cardona was a great thing, you can't be going out there taking 10 pounds of gold with him and then losing to a female.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know if that's where it's going to go either, but
we don't, but I'm just talking in general. I mean, he shouldn't be in the ring with a female at all.
Right. And I agree with that. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but your world's heavyweight champion has to be protected in such a way.
People who say it's not a popular opinion only think about wrestling among wrestling fans. All right. We need more than what the wrestling fans that are out there right now. The wrestling fans that are out there right now aren't watching the NWA, and Brock Lesnar comes, they're not going to watch the NWA. if they double their current viewership, it's still small.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're wanting to put this out there as something that is going to be a big deal, then it can't be, you can't go, oh, well, everybody knows it's fake and it doesn't matter if men and women, wrestle each other, or if a 5 foot, 115-pound female or 130-pound female beats a 270-pound man, because we all know it's fake. Well, yeah, and that's why people don't watch. So
by the way, for those who've been listening or watching the entire show, Dave Fuller just tagged me in a post with the old flyer. I tried to look it up on the Internet Archive, and it wouldn't pull up the old website. But it was for those who were keeping score, it was a GeoCities website.
How many slashes?
What's that?
How many slashes before I got to the final one?
Oh, gosh. There was geocities.com/Coliseum/Stadium/5154/IHW. So there was a few.
Those were the days. Okay, we sound like old men now.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That was before YouTube. I was telling my wife about tape trading, and she got it because she's not that young. But I was telling her,
you did not just say that, did you?
What? Yeah, no, she's fine with that. But trying to explain to my kids today what tape trading would blow their mind. They wouldn't get it. Yes, honey. In 1999, I purchased a videotape off of highspots.com. Yes, the same Highspots that exist today. And when I watched it, I dubbed it and sent it to my buddy who lived in Orange County, and he sent me a collection of the best of Brian Kendrick matches in Memphis Championship Wrestling. Yes, that's what we did back in the day. So I sent my matches of Samoa Joe in 01 to, I guess it wasn't 99, it would have been 2000, 2001. I sent my Samoa Joe matches to my friend Scrub, and in return, he sent me matches of Brian Kendrick and Brian Danielson and Lance Cade in Memphis Championship Wrestling. So, yeah, fun times. Try to explain that to a 17-year-old. My daughter today, try to explain that to her. Wouldn't get it.
I can't explain dial-up to my 23-year-old. You remember we were talking about some old NWA. You remember NWA Anarchy and how they used to have their show on their site on a dial-up modem, and it was about the size of a postage stamp that was pixelated?
Yeah. And I remember staying up because it was 1 o'clock in the morning out here, because I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning in Atlanta or Georgia or wherever I was watching it from. It was on what was that, U2 America or something like that. And I remember dialing in on my browser and watching it, very, very grainy images, and hearing more audio than video. And it was
which was out of sync.
Huh?
Which was out of sync.
Yeah. But I mean, you kind of got the gist of what was happening, and you're like, who is this altar boy Luke and Jason Cross and this AJ Styles? Oh, he was the guy that was in WCW with Air Paris. I remember. All right, that's enough of that.
Well, but anyway, just to wrap up my thoughts here.
Yeah, please.
Since people asked, we like to chase rabbits on this show.
A little bit.
But look, I don't have a problem with Cardona as champion if he's used right and if he is presented right in other promotions. It's more than just taking a title on the belt and saying, oh, look, he's out there. He has to look like a world champion when he's out there. And so that wraps up my thoughts on that. I do have good thoughts about Crimson winning the national title because I was so tired of Adonis not doing anything with the belt. Let's see if Mayweather can do anything before he loses it back to somebody.
Well, and the thing is we profiled Mayweather and the match over on the alliance-wrestling.com. You guys can check it out. And we talked about, Anthony Mayweather, for a lot of people, he did wrestle as Crimson for a very long time, but before he was Crimson, he was Tommy Mercer, no relation, of course, to Mr. DKM. And he was wrestling in those Tennessee territories. I mean, NWA Top Rope, NWA Saw, NWA Main Event, and he was a former Mid-American TV champion. So this is the second NWA championship, which is kind of hard to believe for as long as he's been around. And we all thought he was going to win the tag title with Jack Stane. That never came to fruition, but he's got all the tools. Make no mistake about it. Anthony Mayweather, I almost called him Tommy Mercer. Anthony Mayweather is a 10 out of 10. He's got a great look. Maybe his promos are a little weak, but he's great in the ring. And I think if you get him in the right situation, his promos could improve. The fact that they put the national title on him, I really feels like it's a big step in the right direction for the NWA. With the television title, I feel like it's more of like a comedy hour now. Tyrus is silly. Tyrus plays games. Tyrus is fun. Tyrus is a blimp. Tyrus will eat more pizza than anyone else. Whatever it is, it's just kind of the variety hour. It's the Austin Idol sports management thing, and every time it's a match, it's just a big show. But what I'm looking forward to is seeing what Mr. Mayweather can do with that title. And like you said, Adonis, for all that he was potentially capable of doing, nothing that came to fruit. No fruit was ever. He did not realize any fruit from his title reign. He never got a shot at the World's Heavyweight Champion. He never was taken as a serious competitor as the national champion. They didn't bother lining up opponents for him. They threw James Storm at him. They threw Judas at him. And that was about it. If you go and look at his title matches, he only had a handful of title matches, defenses, and he held that title for almost a year. I mean, from what was it, March 2021 or April from 2021 till February, that was almost a year. And he had a total of like 3 or 4 title defenses on Power, or not on Power, excuse me, but on NWA programming. It was very lackluster. So kudos to Mayweather. I can't wait to see what he does. I do celebrate Adonis for his matches at Ohio Valley. I know he was supposed to defend the title in the UK against Doug Williams. He did wrestle in Poland, but I want to see him. I want to see Adonis do something more before they put another championship belt on him.
Well, Adonis is one of those people now. I mean, quite frankly, his character is boring.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that would benefit, kind of like Aldous, would benefit from going missing for about 3 months, shaving his head and coming back with a thick beard, a la Mike Knox. And,
You just described Goldberg.
No, I mean, kind of a...
You mean like this?
Yeah. And just, he needs an image change. And he needs a gimmick change. And or it could be coming either way.
Sorry, man.
And you missed all the fun. We talked about you.
I'm sorry, guys. It's been wild. My boss is here. I'm still at work. It's my office.
Yay.
Look,
we're not going to get you in trouble, are we?
Look, there's the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion right there. Yeah, I feel bad. I wanted to talk to Keith. I watched some of the show on I popped in and out on the YouTube, but I'm just trying to do what I got to do to help my people.
Help some people. So anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, Mayweather.
Kevin, feel free to bail if you have to for any reason and jump back on when you can. We were talking about Chris Adonis losing the national championship. Although it has not aired yet on TV, I think it'll be on next week's Power. Power. What are your thoughts on the new national champion, and what are your thoughts on the new world champion?
I think it's kind of cheesy, man, that like I know the new champs are in place, and yet they're not. They're on the TV show's not caught up with real life. I don't know how you do that, but the new national champion is Mayweather. He wasn't even on the show, right, prior to the event. Oh, yeah.
No, he's been on USA.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. No, I mean, he wasn't even real. I mean, I'm just saying, like, we haven't seen even a whole lot of Mayweather and no really build up for that. Honestly,
the build up for that match, by the way, was Nick Aldis saying, "Hey, get your head in the game," and that's all it took. That's all it took to right your ship.
Wow. No, man. Let me take my. I can't be on public air with my logo on. Let me take my. Sorry, guys. I'm not allowed to represent my company on social media without permission.
Sorry.
I can't represent the Rangers though.
There it is.
No, I just it was. Hey, you know what's something cool? I went to the Mavericks game here in Miami on Tuesday and watched Luka Doncic come into Miami and take one from the Western Conference the Eastern Conference's #1 team. How about that? How about them apples, DK?
Woot woot.
All right, let's get back to wrestling.
I wish Keith would have been on the show. I could have been here with Keith because we could have talked DFW. We could have talked DFW and got hype about it. Like I said, I feel bad. We got to have him back on the show so him and I can chop it up a little bit. It just circumstances. But no, I also too. I don't know where you guys are on covering the show, but I mean, I thought Matt Cardona looked fantastic on the show. I felt like he was he looked best of all of everybody. And then I agree with you, Jay, from backstage. I thought the Markova genocide match kind of stole the show. So as a whole, just overall, those are my two big takes from the thing.
Kevin, your face disappeared.
Oh, sorry. I'm still, yeah, I'm on my show. Y'all want to say hi to my boss?
Sure.
What up? That's Jane.
Hey, what's going on?
That's Jane. Jane was a pro tennis player.
Yeah.
Go Jay. Not this day, but that Jay.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you whenever, next week, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I'm watching my front desk right now via cameras. Can't show you all that, but it is what it is.
So you're on camera watching cameras. That's cool.
Yep. So now that she's walking out the door, once she leaves, then I can leave. You can't leave with your boss at work, guys.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that concept.
I worked loss prevention for 8 years at Best Buy on and off, so I spent a lot of time staring at cameras. But that
explains a lot about you.
Yeah, I know, right? So let's.
Sorry, guys. Did I freeze?
Yeah, you
Just
did
for a minute.
Now. Do we want to talk about NWA USA first, or do you want to jump into Power?
I'm
USA,
gonna jump
because
off.
that's the way I saw.
I'm gonna jump off while you guys talk about USA, and then hop back on. I'll be back on in a second. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this one of my favorite things about the NWA returning to YouTube as a platform is here's a life hack for you. If you want to watch the 30-minute show in about 15 minutes, you can actually adjust the speed on YouTube for playback, and you can actually make it go faster. And I tend to watch the show in 1.5 speed because it makes it go a little bit faster. Now, this week on NWA USA, it's actually the superior show for most weeks, but it still makes it a little bit quicker to get through if you don't want to sit there and spend the whole half hour watching it. There's your life hack for the week. The show kicks off with Austin Aries with May Valentine. Austin Aries puts her down pretty quick, which kind of made me laugh. I'm surprised you still have a job, which that kind of made me laugh. I love May Valentine. I think she does a wonderful job. But for her to just get that burn from Aries and her face, if you watch the video, her jaw drops like she's shocked to hear it. And, of course, Austin Aries is an asshole. He's going to say these kind of things. As another fire promo from Aries. And the one key takeaway that I'm going to take from that promo was that he was surprised that May Valentine could even understand what Homicide was saying. What did you think about the promo, DK?
Of course, I love May, so anytime that she's doing the promo things, it's either going to be entertaining because of her or entertaining because of the guest, but you're going to get entertainment. So
do you remember how we went from saying how awful she was to now we're like celebrate her as one of the better parts of the show?
When she first came in and she wasn't doing commentary or doing the thing, and then when she started with doing the interviews, oh man, I never knew I could feel pain like that. and then she just became the best, and it's just amazing how. That's why you got to give people time. I will say, you got to give people time. You got to get them in the right environment. You got to let them get comfortable. We'll talk a little bit about that actually in the Power review. The good news is I liked Aries' promo. I thought it was good. I like that he addressed Homicide, who, quite frankly, is the only one in the match who's kind of his equal as far as being known and out there and everything. So, he says Homicide's a fighter, but he's a pro wrestler, and it was a good promo. And, the two things with May were, good little burns, and, then the bad thing happened. We found out that Austin Idol was back on commentary.
But, he was more reserved this week, which I could appreciate. And him and Velvet weren't screaming over each other, which, again, when they're not fighting, it's a little bit more bearable. But when they're fighting, it's just god-awful, and I'm done. I'm ready to mute the volume.
He wasn't as loud as he can be. They still bickered more than I want them to.
Sure.
It wasn't the yelling that we sometimes get from Idol. But, there was twice that I felt bad for Joe Galley. And I've been critical of Galley in the past, but he tried so hard to talk about what's going on in the ring, and those two just talk over him.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And it's like, please stop. But, hey, you know what we got coming out of the thing is we got a pretty damn good junior heavyweight tournament match.
Yeah. And I'll be the first one to admit, a little surprised. Okay. I can admit when I'm wrong. When I looked at Kerry Morton on the surface, I wasn't impressed.
He's not overly impressive on the surface.
I don't want to insult him, but he's a little bit softer. He's not as muscular as you see from some of the other wrestlers. His face reminds me a lot of Chance Prophet, which is kind of hard for me to shake because every time I look at him, I'm picturing, Joseph Nelson and not Kerry Morton. So that's a little off-putting for me. But the match itself was pretty good. Well, let's get to it right now. Colby Carino with the Fixers taking on Kerry Morton. The match itself is very competitive. The problem with it was the outside interference, though. It was still a good match. Don't get me wrong. It was still good to see Kerry Morton get in there and mix it up with Colby. Of course, it left the window open for a series of matches later between the two, but Colby won, and rightfully so. Colby's been one of the focal points of the junior heavyweight division. I don't think it would have been right for him to be excluded from that four-way match. What were your thoughts?
I basically agree with you. I kind of don't know if it was who influenced it, but it was kind of an old-fashioned wrestling match. There was the right amount of interference and the back and forth. But, even when one of the Fixers got involved, Morton still kicked out, and Colby still, had to go to his finisher to win. And so I thought it thought it was a good mix of what you would think of in pro wrestling, of both from back in the day and today.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've criticized Power before being a mix of the past and the future, the past and the current, just all the bad parts of both. And I found this match to be a good mix of the past and the current, you know, and the good parts of the both. And so, look, I would say this is my second favorite episode of USA, with last week's being my favorite. And there's no doubt that this show is right now the better of the two shows, and a little more coherent, a little more put together. Stories are running.
USA has been more consistent for sure, and I think right now it is the superior show. I really did like this week's Power, but we'll get to that momentarily. Can we jump to the next match, or did you? I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's good. Yeah, jump to what happened next.
So next up, we get Kyle Davis interviewing Anthony Mayweather, and one of the things he said that just sometimes I hear something and it makes me kind of giggle, laugh, whatever you want to say, and he just says he said to Kyle Davis, "Where's it going to get me, Kyle?" As it pertains to his kind of being lost in the fold. Mayweather agrees with his buddy Aldis that he has to start winning, and Mayweather says that he'd beat Marche Rockett 9 out of 10 times. And just as he's finishing that sentence, Marche Rockett, along with Black G's, the Church's Money, in conjunction with Idolmania Sports Management and the greater United States of America, we get this interruption where they talk about Black G's talks about Marche Rockett and kind of puts him over at the expense of Mr. Anthony Mayweather. Again, what do you think about this promo?
Knowing what we know now, this promo ends up being better.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, like you said, he goes, Mayweather basically says, I beat him 9 out of 10 times. Or I guess it was actually Jesus said that or whatever. But he points out that Jesus already won, so there's not going to be any other times.
Yeah. Well, G said that to Mayweather, like, look, the one time it mattered, you lost to Marche. And that was a good comeback for G's. I thought that was good.
Yeah, but the idea here was that we're not going to wrestle you again because we have nothing to gain by it. And stuff like, and whatever. And so when you throw in that now Mayweather's the national champion, that changes the dynamic. Guess who's going to want to wrestle him now?
Right.
And so one dead battery. And
no, not yet.
Oh, did it just time out on you?
I missed the timer because the timer on my screen is blocked by other productions parts of this screen. So it literally just hides it. I don't even see it anymore. And I'm like, well, I have to just kind of guess every 30 minutes. I have to check. And if I don't, then that's what happens.
Well, that's fun. So, yeah, I mean, this ends up being a better, because this was done, we saw this before we saw the show, or before the big show where Mayweather wins the titles.
Real quick, Kevin, I see a blue light and a red light behind you. Are you getting pulled over?
Not right now. I'm currently not getting pulled over. Right now, I'm actually sitting outside of Chipotle, waiting for my burrito to pop up.
All right.
So that's where we're at right now.
Okay. I just see a blue light and a red light behind you, and it looks it looks conspicuous.
Ominously.
Thank you.
Well, it is South. We're in Miami right now, so anything is possible. If you want to know anything about my life and what life is like out here, go on Instagram and follow the account Only in Dade, and you'll get just a taste of the insanity that is out here.
Real quick, I want to answer Wrestling with the MMA's question. Why did Mayweather change from Crimson? when he wrestled in Impact Wrestling, now we said it earlier in the show, he started off as Tommy Mercer in the NWA years and years ago. When he finally got brought into the NWA, he was supposed to be partnered with the Amazing Red. That's where they came up with Crimson. I think the idea was he was supposed to be Crimson's big brother or something like that. Little big brother or something like that. Excuse me. He was supposed to be the Amazing Red's little big brother, whatever. Anyways.
Big little brother.
Yeah, so he had the name Crimson while he was there. When he returned back to Impact Wrestling after his departure, him and Jack Stane actually went in there as the War Kings, and he was Anthony Mayweather when he returned. For whatever reason, when he came back to the NWA, they started calling him Crimson again, and I think he just opted to ditch the whole name Crimson because it didn't really apply at this point. So I just wanted to get to that. Let's get to the next match, DK, if you wouldn't mind, or the next segment, I should say. And it's strictly business in the back with May. And this one's more focused on Camille, where they kind of messed this up a little bit. Again, due to editing, I'm not sure exactly what happened. But May says that she's grateful that Camille will be the special enforcer, or was the special enforcer out there. Seemed like they kind of made a miscue there. And then she asks Adonis again, hey, are you ever going to defend that title? And Adonis's answer was like, yeah, but if my opponent is who they say it is, it's a joke. And I didn't really understand that. But did you have anything you want to add to that, DKM?
No, it was what it was. A little bit confusing. Again, they don't have the best post-production, but hey, if in the overall scheme of things, if this is the low point of the show, thumbs up.
Yeah. And Kevin, did you watch USA or no?
I did not. I did not watch USA. I watched Power though. So go me.
We'll get to Power in just a minute. We got a few more things to recap here. Of course, they recapped the junior heavyweight tournament. It was a nice little package. They showed each winner advancing. So they showed the end of the scramble with Homicide getting the win. They showed Aries defeating Rhett Titus, and the rest of how that all played out. Pretty cool. Just kind of give you a recap if you hadn't been paying attention before. So I did like that. I thought that was cool. And then that brings us to the main event of the night, which was the women's match between Kenzie Page and Natalia Markova. Now, this match has been building for a couple of weeks. Natalia Markova has been getting a lot of camera time, not just in USA, but also on Power. And she's been made to be like the top heel on this show. And her and Page, Kenzie Page, traded offense. It was a lot of fun. I'm actually surprised how much offense Kenzie Page got in this match. Tim Storm and Camille were also ringside to prevent any chaos from happening, which didn't happen. One of the cool things that I saw was when Markova went to get the steel chair, Tim Storm was the one that actually prevented her from using it. Camille kind of just walked away from it. She was almost like she didn't care. And Storm takes the chair from Natalia, which brings out Raven and May. Raven confronts Tim Storm yet again. May is giving Camille grief about not being more of an enforcer. And at that point, then Markova smashes Camille from behind, which is just like, what the hell is going on? And then she runs in the ring and ends up stacking Kenzie Page for the win. This was just a bizarre set of circumstances that was just kind of odd to me. DK, what were your thoughts?
Well, the match itself was actually pretty good. I enjoyed the match itself when it was taking place. This was a little too much noise with Tim Storm and Camille. Obviously, they're doing something where they're trying to build to Markova versus Camille or something. This was the start of it. Would I have done it differently? Yes. Was it horrible? No. A little more noise than I would have liked, for people to understand when I say that. Overall, they need to figure out what they're doing with Raven, if he's even coming back. I don't know, because we just don't know anything with how they do things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, better than the Strictly Business interview. Not as good as the first match was, just, a simple match. So, I'll give this a 2, a solid 2.
I still think the USA show was good.
I want to jump in.
Kevin, were you saying something?
Am I on delay or anything? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, we can. We can
I don't know that you can hear us.
Okay, good. I can hear you. I can hear you guys. No, I can hear you guys. I just wanted to make a comment. I had not seen Markova before, and I know I'm just going to comment on her while we're talking about why she got brought up. But after kind of having watched a little bit of stuff on the internet and then having seen her wrestle, you can't knock her for her effort, man. It's always nice to see somebody that you can tell is trying really hard at something, and you can really tell that like she's trying really hard to be good. Whether she ever fully gets there, I don't know, but she's trying hard. She's giving a lot of herself to it, and I think that's always like something to be impressed with. I'm not going to say she's even close to there yet, but when we talk about her match with Genocide on POWERRR, I'll comment more on it. But so far, I've been fairly impressed.
I think this is just a thing that could have benefited again from our, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. If you had just put Camille out there, if Paige and Markova had just wrestled, if Camille had maybe tried to trip Markova or whatever, but it didn't work, and she still Markova ended up winning the match, and then you had a confrontation between the two, and then Tim Storm comes out, and then the rest of the 24/7 title crew, comes out to, try to keep them separated or whatever, and you go off the air that way, then I think you've done something. It was just, I think, a little too much throughout the thing, having Tim out there, Camille out there, chairs, attacks, back, May Valentine, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, like I said, the match itself was good. I was happy with it. Would have done the booking around that just a little bit differently. So, I mean, that's my thoughts on USA. I enjoyed the show. I liked it. We'll see how they go next week.
I want to give credit again to Markova, and this isn't to necessarily diss Kenzie Page, because I think she's been improving a lot. But the fact that Markova could go out there and have a really top-notch match with Genocide, and also have a very top-notch style match with Kenzie Page, I think shows you how good she is. And Kevin says she's not there yet, and I will always take Kevin's criticism to heart, because he knows what he's talking about. But I was very impressed by what Markova was able to pull out. And I'm not the hugest Markova fan, but I think she was easily this week's MVP. But let's get to that show that we all love so much, the POWERRR, the Hour of Power.
Can I jump in?
Yes, you
may.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes, you may. Yes.
So when I say there, there to me is like Jazz or somebody I consider like elite.
Okay.
So that's what there is. That's my North Star. And again, that way you kind of know what I'm expecting. If I'm talking about promos or something like that, I'm talking about Adam Pearce is there. That's what I mean by there. Like, but if I'm going to take time to stop down and like recognize somebody, that alone is something I don't normally do. So again, I will. I didn't see USA, so I can't go out on and say MVP. But right now my two MVPs would be just from power. It would be Cardona and definitely Markova and Genocide.
So let's get to the show. You guys good with that?
Yep.
This is NWA POWERRR season 7.
Guys, I'm gonna hop off and hop back on.
Yeah, we'll see
I'm
you in a minute.
hop off and hop back on because my delay's pretty bad.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. So that brings us to the again the start of the show. This I absolutely love this episode of Power, specifically because there wasn't a lot of wasted time. There were many matches on this show, and they just shoved it all in, and it was one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best shows that they've done on Power in a very long time, maybe even ever. There wasn't a lot of wasted promos. There wasn't a lot of BS. It went straight to wrestling. And the first match of the night is we get the British Invasion taking on Jaden Rowland and Fable Jake. Now, of course, this is an enhancement match. So I wasn't expecting to see like a 5-star classic. It's supposed to showcase the British Invasion ahead of the Crockett Cup. Totally understand the purpose. Totally understand the premise. I just felt like maybe the British Invasion took too much. Maybe they should have not taken as much offense from Jaden Rowland and Fable Jake, because those guys are enhancement guys. They shouldn't have gotten a lot of offense in. And I don't think it would have hurt them to lose, like straight out get squashed by the British Invasion. The British Invasion are a decorated tag team. They're former IWGP tag team champions. They're former Impact tag team champions. Why are they giving up so much to this enhancement team? Anyways, the finish of the match was a combination of Williams' Chaos Theory and Aldis's top elbow drop from the top rope. We've seen them do this before. I believe this is their signature move. And I was happy with the end result. It was a fun match. But again, I think my biggest problem was it just took a little too long, or not too long, but I think they took too much offense. DK, what are your thoughts?
It was the second longest match on the show, and I probably would have traded it out with the Tootie Lynn Marty Bell match, which was the shortest match on the show, and I probably would have traded those two out or readjusted the time. Yeah, this should have been quicker than it was. Overall, I enjoyed it. It just should have been quicker.
Now, how do you feel about a team like the British Invasion taking that much offense? Like, did that bother you at all? Or is that a me thing? Because I always look at these enhancement matches and I'm thinking, like, this should be like the old school WWF Superstar squash. Like, they shouldn't take any of that offense because it's not a real tag team, or at least not a competitive tag team. It's certainly not on the same stage as the British Invasion.
I think this is their attempt to say they don't do squash matches, which they should.
Yes.
Do squash matches. That's what it's supposed to do. Yeah, it's one of the issues in modern wrestling in general. And, we'll see some of it. Kevin once made reference to, matches today have been competitive. Well, not all of them. when you're trying to get someone over, the way you get them over is they win, and they win convincingly. You know, that's the purpose. That's, you know, back in the old days, the Smarks used to have a term called jobber to the stars, which was basically your mid-card wrestlers. So, you know, they'd go out on Saturday and, you know, on TBS and beat the TV guys. And then they'd go to the Omni and win some lower card matches. And then they'd go to the Omni and wrestle some of the top guys and lose, which made the top guys look better.
Right.
And, you know, that's what made him a top guy, was because they were able to beat these other guys that you saw winning on TV. And that's just something that's missing from today's wrestling. I found it very interesting. There was an interview with Baron Corbin, Happy Corbin, whatever they call him in WWE now, where they noted that nobody has kicked out of his finisher on WWE.
I saw this interview.
You know, he doesn't have a still or win-loss record, but nobody, when he said his finisher, is kicked out. And so they asked him something, would he rather win like the world title and have someone kick out of his finisher, or never win, you know, a major title, and never have anybody kick out of his finisher? And he noted, I'd probably rather nobody ever kick out of my finisher, because that's something you'll really be remembered for. And so in translating that back into this, you know, guys need to be able to win convincingly and take over things. I know they tried to do something with Jaden Roller, a stupid thing with Tim Storm that hasn't had a payoff yet, and hopefully never will, and they'll just drop it. And, you know, we need this enhancement team to be fed to the dominant team, and then that's what makes the dominant team look dominant. You know, what makes me think Aldis and Williams are going to have a chance of winning the Crockett Cup? Well, because they're looking really good on TV and defeating people easily. Of course, the show does not address the fact that POWERRR TRIP took place a few days earlier. I don't think it did at all, did it?
No.
I mean, not even like a post-show thing. Oh, this last whatever, which is sad. But you know, here we go. Like I said, those matches should have been. This should have been about 4 minutes and 35 seconds, primarily of Aldis and Williams showing us like everything they can do.
Like, if we're gonna get a competitive match, let me see them wrestle Dirty Dango and Jay the God. We're gonna get a competitive match. Let me see them, and I think they already did, but let me see them wrestle Hakari again. If we're going to have a competitive match, let me see him wrestle the End. You know, obviously that can't happen because of the situation, but it wasn't a bad match, but I just feel like they should have crushed them. Now, our buddy Devin Dowling asked, are the British Invasion even in the tournament now that Aldis is facing Cardona? And the answer is
sort of.
Yes. There hasn't been an official announcement yet. Now, a video did drop earlier today from the NWA, but they quickly pulled it before I could even watch it. But the overall source that we're hearing is that Doug Williams is going to be finding another partner. And some people are speculating that might be Rob Terry. Even in our own chat room, Willie Bowen speculated that. We don't know for sure who his partner is going to be. They haven't made that formal announcement yet. But yeah, that's what we're expecting. So we'll go back and continue with the show. The next
are we talking about British Invasion?
Yeah. Now what Devin asked was, now that the title match has been set for Crockett Cup and all
not this Devin.
What's that?
Not this Devin.
No, not this Devin, but the other Devin. That the Crockett Cup is going to feature a title match with Nick Aldis, effectively having him leave the tag team tournament because he's going to be wrestling for the World's Heavyweight title. So it's up to now Doug Williams to find a new partner in the British Invasion. as they continue on that tag team tournament. So
I just wanted to comment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you go through all that. Just to comment that I was really impressed with Doug Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, you know how I feel about older wrestlers, right? If you're going to be an old wrestler, like, that's what you need to look like. That's what you need to move like. That's what it should look like. There's not and again, you're listening to me here, right? The most critical guy of wrestlers over 40, like, probably that exists. And I'm saying, if you're going to do it, if you can't go with Doug Williams on that level, you shouldn't be out there. Because Doug Williams looked good. I mean, everything he did to me was outstanding. He might have been behind Cardona the most impressive male wrestler on the show. Just super impressed with him. I just wanted to make a point about that. Like, when you guys hear me talk about the eyeball test, Doug Williams passes the eyeball test on every level. He doesn't move like he's, past his prime. He doesn't look like he's past his prime. For all I know, he's in his prime right now. I mean, the guy is fantastic, and that's, if you're going to be an older wrestler, that's the eyeball test you have to pass. As far as I'm concerned, that's the standard right now.
I think it's kind of impressive. They mentioned the World of Sport style of wrestling, and if any of you have ever seen the World of Sport wrestling, it's not super high impact, right? It's not like they're not doing, axe bombers, and they're not slamming people on the hard side of the ring or dropping dudes on their head. It's a very scientific style of wrestling, and I think that's why he looks so good and can still do it, because, he's out there wrestling in that style of wrestling, making it look like a science, very scientific. So that's all we'll say about the British Invasion. Let's move on. And the next matchup we get is, and check this out, not a lot of, no promo here, no extended time backstage, no little goofy segment. No, the second match, we get Tootie Lynn Ramsey with Kylie Ray taking on half of the women's tag team champions, Marty Bell, Allison Kay in her corner. This match was a lot more competitive than I initially thought it was going to be. Marty seemed very arrogant in this match, not like her. She's usually the underdog, especially in a match with Allison Kay. She's the one that typically gets that hot tag to Allison Kay. She's the one that takes the heat, I guess, Kevin. I think that's how you call it, right?
Yep.
So, like I said, it was surprising that the match was as competitive as it was. But Marty Bell got easily frustrated, and she couldn't put away Tootie. It didn't matter what she did. Tootie Lynn found a way to fight out of it. And even at one point, she looked over at Medusa as she's clubbing away at Tootie Lynn in the corner and said, "I've been working out," to Medusa, which I don't know why she's engaging the announcer while she's in a match. It seems very narcissistic, very arrogant. Like, you should be focusing on what's going on in the ring. So it felt like Marty was kind of not even wrestling a typical Marty match. Tootie Lynn wins the match with a roll-up, echoing on commentary. Individually now, the Smiley Dragons have defeated Team X on one-on-one competition. I think this might lead to a women's tag team match. What did you think about this one, Kev? And we'll get DK's thoughts here in a second.
I felt like it was, of the finishes this week, it was probably the cleanest of the finishes in terms of just looked good. There was a lot of botchy wrestling on this card, on this show. And this is the point where you hear me talk about this stuff. Guys, I'm not trying to be hard on anybody. I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm just saying, like, this card, no, I mean, I'm sorry that I understand what the meaning of excellence actually means. That I'm not willing to settle. That I'm not going to say it's bad or there's anything wrong with anybody, but I'm not going to call something excellent that wasn't. I'm going to call it what it was. This show was a stacked show.
Yeah.
All they had to do for this show to be really the best, one of the best episodes, if not the best episode of Power they've ever had, was execute. All they had to do was execute on this show. And I felt like every match had a botchy moment. And it's like, look, man, like this is the meat of the show. This is what you set us up for. And I just was really kind of not like negative, like disappointed in a negative way, just kind of sad, you know, like, man, I want them to have this, like, to be good so bad. And I want to come on here and be like, man, this was the show that this was the next level show. And I felt like this had every opportunity to have it. It just didn't. And I felt like this match was still not a great match, but it was one of the cleaner matches in terms of especially the finish. DK, what do you think? Your sound is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Never sounded better, DK.
All right. What I was saying was that I think this was a good match. I would have liked for it to have gone longer. It was well competitive. I do want to hit this before I forget it. I understand what you're saying about some of the botches. I noticed them too. But a lot of times, look, can we just say the average show is going to be average? You know, it's not going to be great from start to start. I get tired of people who, when I watch some of the reviews and, you know, every episode of AEW, they rank 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. That doesn't happen in the world. And so, you know, I try to watch these shows. I try to sit back and watch them as a wrestling fan and not so much as a, you know, Kevin has the eye of a former wrestler. Jaden has that same eye. And I think sometimes they take too much in. I'm just sitting back and enjoying the show. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not expecting perfection. I just want to, at the end of the day, and say, hey, I spent an hour watching the show or however long it is, and I enjoyed myself. And with this episode, I definitely said that. And with this match, it was a good match. I enjoyed it. It's the best Tootie Lynn has certainly looked, and I think maybe her first or second victory.
Yeah.
And certainly her first victory of any meaning. And the interesting thing is, I was just thinking to myself before they announced the thing, is we haven't seen the Hex in a while. And then they brought out this match. So, you know, hey, I enjoyed it. It was good. Nice finish.
Do you think that Team Hex and the Smiley Dragons are going to be locking up at Crockett Cup?
You know, it seems to be where they're heading, which I wouldn't mind, but we've had this match already and kind of different.
I don't think we actually had that match, did we?
I don't know that we've had it single, but, you know, we've kind of had, actually, I don't know that we haven't either.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember. And, but it's fine that they got individual singles wins, but again, I want to see Tootie Lynn and Kylie Ray as at the tag team getting tag team wins.
Yeah,
that's what tells me they should be challenging for the tag team championship. I mean, this is nice, but you know, I want to see tag team champions defend against tag teams that win.
Right, beating the tag champs in singles matches doesn't make you the best tag team. To you know what I'm saying? Like, even if both of the Hex went out and lost every one of their singles matches, that still doesn't mean they're not still the best tag team, because it's a tag team. So, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that, DK. And I just want to be clear too, just on what I'm looking at. Like, I'm looking as a fan too. It's not that I'm like just trying to overanalyze it as a wrestler. But even before I ever became a wrestler, I knew when things looked good and when they didn't. I mean, one of the things that stood out about like a wrestler like say a Rey Mysterio, where everybody calls the excellence of execution Bret Hart, but really the excellence of execution was Rey Mysterio, because I don't think I ever saw Rey Mysterio mess up anything in the ring, in terms of just even the smallest details of his moves and the way he does things. Like, in some of the more complicated moves, always seem to hit right more than not. And I'm just talking about it from that perspective of just looking at it going, I'm hoping for them to have a show that stands out as a show that goes, man, this could go up against, you know, any big league wrestling show out there. And that's all I'm saying. I mean, if I wanted to break it down like a wrestler, I mean, I wouldn't use some of the language I'm using. It's just, all I'm saying, DK and Jay, is just that, you know, I'm rooting for them to have a show where things, okay, listen, perfect doesn't mean you execute. Like, that doesn't mean that. Like, just because perfect and executing are not the same. You can execute everything well and it still not be perfect, because then you're not talking about timing, you know, and you can, you know, there's a lot of things, there's other things that make something perfect. I'm just saying, in the ring as a wrestler, you know, there should be there's certain things that are considered fundamental, and maybe they don't do the fundamentals on AEW anymore. Maybe they don't do them on WWE anymore, or NXT. They certainly don't do it on NWA, which is the only wrestling I'm watching right now. And it's just, these are things that I considered standards, not like, oh, this is what's going to make it the greatest show ever. But this is stuff that shouldn't happen every match. One or every now and then, off and on, it's cool. But when you got a stacked card and every match you have something kind of go botchy, you're just like, dang it, man. Like, that's not, if I'm booking the show, I'm like, dang it, that's the one area that we're missing. That's the one area we got to clean things up a little bit to really take us up a notch. So I just want to be clear on that. I'm not expecting perfection at all.
I appreciate that view. I really do. And look, everybody knows I can be overly critical at times. And so I'm not even getting that. What I'm saying on a personal level, I don't notice it like you do. And I don't know that the average person notices it like you do. And so it's just, like I said, at the end of the hour, I want to feel like I, you know, didn't waste my hour, or that I didn't have a lot to bitch about. And, you know, so for me, were there botchy moments? Sure. Hey, look, I watched Rey Mysterio matches. I've seen him botch stuff. And,
of course.
And, you know,
just less than everybody else.
You know, it's just the way, oh, hello, something went black. So it's just the way, you know, it's just the way things go. And I guess what I might say, in an overall good show, I'm not going to worry if there's botch even every little man, you know, and maybe even what we call botches are different. You know, I once said a long time ago, to me, it's only a botch if you ignore it, or if you do it right away again. Because things don't go perfect in anything. You know, people miss moves, people do things, you know, watch any pro sport, any combat sport. So, you know, to me, it's a botch when I go at you and I'm supposed to hit you with a clothesline to go over the top rope, and I hit you with the clothesline not very well, and you're just standing there, and then all of a sudden I either push you or shove you or try to do something, and then all of a sudden you flip. That's a botch. If I hit you with a clothesline and you just kind of stand there and you don't go over when you probably were supposed to, but you just move on in the wrestling match, see, to me, that's not a botch.
Well, let me give you like the botch of the show, just to be clear what I mean by it. You're getting ready to set somebody up in your submission for the finish, Melina, and you botch your own submission finish, then you turn around, you roll her, then you lay on top of her, and the ref counts 1, 2, 3. That kind of stuff can't happen on a big league wrestling match, like a big league show.
Let's get to that. I think we've talked enough about that. Let's get to the show because we only have 2.5 hours, and then I'm getting the hell out of here. We go backstage with Scion, and he's with Austin Idol. Now, we saw last week, Austin Idol came to the rescue of Scion to try to get him back in the ring, get him motivated to wrestle. I believe that was Sal Renaro in that no DQ match. Anyways, May wants to know who's Scion's daddy. May asks why Idol helped Scion, and Scion gets really frustrated and just yells "It is, it's none of your business. And my father was a world champion, not just any champion, a world champion." Which, with him saying that, basically absolves Austin Idol out of this whole gimmick. And now my guess is that the father's Mike Rapata. Kevin, what did you think of this segment?
Moving right along.
DK, your thoughts?
Sion's still not interesting. Someone's got a turn signal on or something there.
I muted. Sorry, Kev, I muted you. But wait till you're done churning.
It's all right. I took it off. Carry on.
All right, so that brings us, and I do want to point out that we got two matches before we had any BS with promos, backstage segments, interviews at the podium, and for that, I'm going to applaud the NWA because this is the first time I think ever that I actually got wrestling when I turned this thing on. So good job. Please keep doing more of that. I don't mind the promos, but I want wrestling. That's what I tune in for, not the podium talk, not May Valentine. I mean, she's easy on the eyes, but that's not why I'm watching the show. So I'm glad that they did that. Now, that brings us to the next match where we get Natalia Markova, who is, in fact, at the podium, but not for very long. She has a few words about genocide, and then that's it. She's heading to the ring. And, as we brought it up earlier, Markova had been engaged in a feud with Kenzie Page on USA. She's been kind of like the target for Taryn Terrell's team because she mopped the floor with Paola Blaze early in the season, and now Genocide wants to get her hands on her. So Natalia Markova seems to kind of be the straw that's stirring the drink in the women's division for the NWA. A lot of people want to get a piece of her. Even May Valentine said she wasn't well liked because she's causing so much chaos. And I really feel like she's making a claim to be the future challenge for Camille because of all these matches that she's having and the fact that she's just kind of been the center of focus for the women's division more so than Camille. The commentary speaks about the beef Markova has with Paola, but they didn't mention the troubles that Markova has had with Paige. I thought that was kind of weird. They almost treated it like it didn't happen. Markova was very aggressive against Genocide. I thought the match was really solid. Like, probably one of my favorite matches so far this year. It's funny, every time I say that, it's a women's match on Power, but this was a really good match. They wrestled a different style where they packed their lunch, and I mean, it was hard hitting. They weren't taking it easy by any stretch of the imagination. And Markova didn't step down to Genocide. And let's remember, Genocide is stronger. She's bigger. And, it was kind of cool to see Markova in this role where she didn't step down. She hit an incredible DDT on Genocide on the floor. I thought it might have even killed her. It looked very clean, very smooth. Genocide recovers from that DDT and then power bombs Markova on the ring apron, the hardest part of the ring, if you know. And Markova, literally just exploded. She looked like she broke in half right there. And Jared Fritz, the referee, was forced to count both ladies out, although technically I think he should have broke the count when Markova was powerbombed on the ring apron because she did kind of break the threshold of the ropes. That should have broke the count. But regardless, both women didn't have much left in them after that move, and the match ended in a double countout, but that was crazy and intense. And it kind of reminded me of what Kev would say about watching two super heavyweights go at it. You just want to watch two guys club each other, yell at each other, scream at each other. That's kind of what we got in this match. DK, I want to get your opinion. What did you think of this one?
Well, first of all, I was very impressed that an NWA referee could actually count all the way to 10. Wasn't sure that was possible or not because of how much. Apparently, they only count to 10 if you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
If you're actually doing something, they don't count. So that was my first thing. Yeah, it was hard hitting. It was a slobber knocker to slobber knocker. Good old JR. And could have gone a little longer for my taste. It was kind of short. I do think it was a good use of the double count out. Yeah. You know, anytime strong people smash each other, I find that to be a good thing. Kevin?
Yeah, I really liked the match. The finish was outstanding. I mean, I feel like I kind of agree with DK's point that this is how you do a double count out if you're going to do one. It was actually delivered more on the finish, even as a double count out, than normal finishes do these days, especially since 90% of finishes these days are roll-ups. I mean, my hat goes off to Markova. The only thing I think of when I think about her is not because of the look, but her style of wrestling is like Mick Foley. I mean, everything with her is like high impact, like heavy bumps. Like she bumps like she's probably the best bumping female in the business right now. Serious. I haven't seen another woman that committed. Because I went and saw some of her stuff on the independent, and I'm like, Jesus, like this girl is committed to trying to do. But I mean, I'm not quite sure what that is yet. But like I said, when you do a tornado DDT on the floor, you know, your body's taking a huge. The one giving the DDT is taking a huge amount of punishment, as well as the one taking the move. Then turn around and get power bombed on the apron. To me, as just looking at it from like, dang, what if I'd had to take those two bumps? That would have sucked. All she needed to do was drop an elbow from the apron just to make it complete. That's kind of how I felt about it. A genocide was really good, and again, just very physical, and again, it's just two kind of, I don't want to say heavyweights, because I'm not sure really if it's ever smart to call a woman a heavyweight, but just two, bad chicks, muscular, athletic chicks going and like just getting physical and beating the crap out of each other and slamming the crap out of each other. I thought it was great. The promo at the beginning was probably not necessary. And other than that, I felt like the match was really outstanding. That was my take on it.
I don't think the promo in the beginning hurt it, but it didn't really add anything to it either.
She didn't say anything. She was like, "I'm ready to wrestle" or something like that. It wasn't anything.
DK, what were your thoughts?
That's all I gave myself.
He did give his thoughts.
All right, then. Sorry. Hey, it's been a long day, okay?
Jeez. Well, apparently a long night.
Yeah. Next up is Melina, back from the Royal Rumble. I mean, kind of. Like, they didn't really acknowledge it because they probably didn't know back then. And again, that's part of the problem about taping these things quarterly instead of taping them monthly, is that the current events that are happening are going to go over everyone's head. This would have been how cool would it have been for them to be celebrating Melina? Hey, she bet on herself. She showed up at the Rumble. She didn't get the results that she wanted, but she was there, and we celebrate our Melina. You didn't get none of that, and to me that's a shame, because I think that would have been a great talking point and kind of building her up a little bit. But what we did get was a pretty good match from Melina. Sure, let's not get too heavy on the botches, but Melina, I really feel like she's taking it to the next level. maybe she's not what she used to be, but I feel like she can still be an asset to the NWA. And I really like Christy Janes. I don't know what it is about her. I like watching her wrestle. I feel like she's pretty competent in the ring. She's kind of a strategist, which I enjoyed watching in this match. But it starts off very aggressive with Melina. But Janes, like I said, is very calculating. There at one point, she's sitting there resting on the ring apron, waiting for Melina to attack. When Melina finally does try to execute that baseball sliding drop kick, Janes was ready for it, and she grabbed her. And something I hadn't seen ever done before, she kind of swished her around in the ring and grabbed her by the arm and then kicked her right in the face. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it made me, like, I popped for it. One of the things I also saw was Janes had a very interesting setup for the STF. Now, I know we said we were going to do a lot of botch talk here, but she botched it, but still managed to get the move on. It wasn't exactly clean, but it still looked pretty cool. One thing that pulled me out of my element was Velvet Sky literally said that Christy Janes might be bigger than most opponents that Melina works with. And that stopped me in my tracks because I don't think Christy Janes is all that much bigger than Melina. But the fact that Melina's wrestled Camille and Genocide on the roster, like, there's no one bigger than those two ladies. So that was just a stupid thing to say. And again, maybe they should have a producer in their ear giving them tips of information and not allowing them to come up with things on their own, because that's just a dumb thing to say. Christy Janes isn't even that big of a talent. She's not Camille. She's not Genocide. She might even be smaller than Kenzie Page. So I just thought that was kind of stupid. But the match itself was very competitive. Melina gets the win when she was able to stack Janes. I really felt like it was a solid effort from both ladies. I wish Melina could have showed more of that fire in the Rumble than what she had an opportunity to do. DK, Kevin, what were your thoughts on this one? I know the botch happened, a couple of botches happened, but what did you think of it?
I mean, I don't even remember the part in the match that I don't even think I noticed the part in the match that you're talking about. But when it happens in the finish, it hurt. It just really dents a match for me. It just dents the whole thing. It's like buying a brand new car and then like driving off the lot, and within a minute you got to, you've damaged it. It's like I don't know. That's not the same, but it just really puts a scar on what could be a great match. Scar.
Wait, sorry, wrong neck.
Yep. Anyway, it does put a bit of a damper on the whole thing, because that's kind of your send-off. That's your opportunity to make up for anything in the match that may not have gone well right there at the end. So I was really, more than anything, like, disappointed for them, not disappointed in them. As far as Christy Janes, I agree. Like, they're really actually, she has a lot of the makeup of someone that could really go really far. She may not have a super long run, but she does have the makeup of somebody that could go far. I think early on in her career, she had a pretty serious injury. I'm not sure if it was like a knee injury or something like that. But I think if she could get back to the condition that she was in physically before the injury, I would think that she would be someone that could easily ascend to the upper echelons of really any wrestling league out there. And just for the reasons that you said, she has a great look, very entertaining, very unique, really gets it in the mat. Her ring style really has a lot of impact and good time. She just has a lot of the good qualities that you need to be a great wrestler, that I think. So all in all, I felt like the match was okay, but that's just because, like I said, it's hard not to think about. Again, we talk about the element of reality and that it's supposed to be suspended disbelief, that sort of thing. DK was bringing up MMA earlier and stuff like that, and you just, you'd never see this type of stuff happen in live sports, where the other person just lets the other person screw up, like at the end, it only takes 20 seconds, and 20 seconds isn't going to kill anybody, especially on a pre-taped show that can be edited. I want to say one more thing, too. Velvet, man, was really bad on this whole show. And I know DK may have mentioned that he felt like the announcing was better, probably because Austin Idol wasn't on there. But as far as Velvet goes, and we'll get to more to this, during the Cardona match, but for me, it's getting to the point where it's really putting a damper, it's making it hard for me to enjoy certain elements and certain segments of the show because it just isn't any good. And going back to another point you made, Jay, this is the negative that it's been pre-recorded for a quarter. That doesn't have to be, right? They can go back in and they can dub over this stuff. They can add in comments and take comments away. They could redo the match in terms of the play-by-play, so we don't really see the play-by-play during the show. So it wouldn't be that hard to really fix some of these issues. And again, I love Medusa. She was funny. She added something to the show, but you could tell she was completely unprepared. She was just winging it. And, this is a nationally televised pay-per-view show. They can do better,
How is that different from any of the other commentators? Real quick, I wanted to point out before DKM, before you give your thoughts, I want to tie this back to our guest from earlier when we were talking to David from the IHWE. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but Christy James was actually the Queen of the Ring champion for the IHWE back in 2016. So there's that. And I think she's still technically the Baja Stars Wrestling Women's Champion in San Diego, California, but I don't think that promotion still runs. But I just want to throw that out there. Now, DKM, what were your thoughts on this one?
First, to address commentary. I never said Velvet Sky was good. I just said commentary was better this time. And Medusa winging it is far better than really Raven sitting and brooding and Austin Idol just being annoying. So I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but they need to do something about the commentary. Seriously. I don't know if Velvet Sky is doing, and this is what you always got to remember. I don't know if Velvet Sky is doing what they want her to do, or if she's just doing what she does. Because I can honestly see Billy Corgan thinking, oh yeah, it's great. You guys go out there and, fuss and argue and talk about this and talk about that, or be this, that. That was Vince McMahon, not Billy Corgan. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, they need to seriously evaluate how they do commentary on this show, and even USA.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gets commentary out. The match itself, I actually did notice both botches. And when Kevin was going to point something else out, earlier, and he goes, well, I knew this is what he was going to talk about was the end. Because it was certainly one of those things that was an obvious botch. In that you didn't, she was trying one thing and then said F it and did something else. And it's like, and I honestly don't know what the botch was. I just know it was botched. And was she not supposed to be going for the submission? Did time get out of hand?
She messed up her own finish. She didn't even know how to put on her own finish, and she just rushed into the pin.
Yeah, I guess. I almost have a hard time believing they could call an audible in the NWA because she could. I don't know that anybody else would get it. A lot of people claim that what happened in Royal Rumble was a botch, that she wasn't supposed to drop to the floor. I actually watched that segment when Kevin was talking because I wanted to be prepared to talk about it. Honestly, I couldn't tell. To me, it looked like it went the way it was supposed to go. And so, there wasn't even sometimes you can tell when things, like with Kofi, when things don't go right, you just see the look on everybody's face of like, oh crap, now what? And, that didn't happen. So I tend to question whether that was an actual botch or not. Most of the match was good. It was the weakest of the women's matches on the card. And, we can go on.
All right. Well, then that takes us to the next match, which was the Savage Gentleman, Victor Benjamin, taking on Mack Cardona. This was only Mack Cardona's second match in the NWA. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Before winning the World's Heavyweight Championship, he had one match televised, and this match aired this week. So technically, he only had 2 matches under his belt before he became World's Heavyweight Champion. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I don't think it's a good thing. This was a nice warm-up for Cardona and whatever he happens to bring to the table. I don't know if this was a short title win for Cardona. I don't know if this is a long-term thing. I don't know what the plans are, and it's kind of hard to tell because it feels like the NWA isn't exactly sure what the plans are. It seems like things happen pretty quickly, and I don't know how this all fits into the 20-year game plan, but it was a nice match. It was an enhancement match, obviously. Benjamin is a solid in-ring performer. I kind of wish he would have gotten better than this. But as we said earlier, you don't bring in the jobber to face these guys. You bring in guys with talent because it helps make them look better. So for that, again, I was happy that Benjamin was in the spot. But I think that guy could do a lot better than what he was given in this one. This was an all Cardona match, in my opinion. Benjamin ate some knees. But at the end of the match, saw Cardona win with the radio silence. And, good win for him. But what did you think, DK?
I thought it was a solid match. Obviously, the purpose of this match is to put Cardona over as a future challenger for the world champion. Probably once he'd already won the title. Which makes me believe he probably wasn't originally supposed to win the world title when he did. The rumors I had heard prior to POWERRR Trip was that he was likely going to win it at Crockett Cup. Cardona, beating Murdoch, and I don't know if there was a different plan for, or if they were going to have a rematch, or if it was a different plan challenger.
They listened to the Alliance guys, and they heard me say they should go ahead and change it off TV.
And so,
or that's the chat.
That was in a private chat, but Billy's everywhere.
That's true.
He's omniscient.
So
yeah, he's stalking our chats now.
So anyway, I'd heard beforehand that the rumor was that the title was going to change hands at Crockett Cup, and it still might. And so, based on how they were filming and how these things have been laid out, not that they haven't screwed things up, like announcing what was going on in Crockett Cup before Crockett Cup was officially announced. But I tend to think that maybe, just maybe, that the title changes at POWERRR Trip may not have been what was planned at the time the tapings took place. And so, under the circumstances, it was a good match. I enjoyed it. Cardona looked good. So there's my review of the match. I would have cut the match and inserted a tape of Cardona with the belt talking about being champion. Again, post-production. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree about, since we all already know Cardona won the title, how you don't go in and make adjustments, I don't know. maybe they've already submitted all of the tapings to Fight TV. Maybe that's why they can't go back and do post-production. Maybe they submitted this stuff. I don't know. But yeah, in another one, and again, I know we're not trying to beat the dead horse, but this was the match where the commentary to me hit like rock bottom, because, you know, look, I get it. Like, I understand that Cardona is the heel and that, you know, Velvet cheers for the faces or whoever she wants to, but you don't just interrupt calling a match to, like, say that someone's boring and say it like 35 times. You don't, I mean, this guy's about to be your world champ. Like, you can not like him and still talk good about him and respectful and, like, do a certain way. Like, there's just a certain way to do that. It just seems very childish. It seems like, I don't know what to say. It seemed like it just was very distracting, and it took away from what I thought. Cardona looked really good to me. Like, I really did. I mean, I thought he looked really good in the match. I mean, he checked all the boxes for me in terms of, he had a great look, he had good ring position, his moves looked crisp, everything looked on point. He looks like he's, like, in shape. He looks like he's in wrestling shape on top of that. So again, it's like, I'm happy to have a guy like this wrestling for the NWA, and yeah, he can be a heel all day long, but you want to put him over because it makes your guys look better for beating him and being a part of the same circle. You don't want to drag him down. Like, it just is never, that's something we were always taught. Like, if you crap all over somebody, you just beat a big pile of crap. And it's like, I don't get how they don't realize how bad this makes their product look. So I love Cardona.
You never put down your own product, and I cringed when she said boring. But we're running way too late. So Jay, what happened next?
Well, that brings us to the main event. This is the finale of Team War. Now, I again thought this show was very solid. Minimal promos, minimal interviews, mostly wrestling. During the main event, Joe Galli acknowledges that Strictly Business cheated to win their semifinal match, and I don't recall them overtly cheating to win. So I'm wondering if there's something that got cut on the editing room floor that we didn't see. I'm not sure. But the first match was Rudo versus Mack. Now, this is the same setup as the last Team War, where the two teams had 3 men. You could win by pinfall, submission, or over the top rope. When your team member was eliminated, the next man can enter the ring. There are no tags or anything like that. This match was mostly a Rodney Mack in terms of offense, but somehow Rudo stole the victory. Then we get Paro in the second round for his team, and he defeats Rudo with a powerbomb quick. And I like that. It made Paro look pretty dominant. We haven't seen a dominant Paro in a long time. Next up, we get Latimer versus Paro. And I want more matches where we see Latimer versus big, muscular dudes. Like Kevin said in the past, we need to see Latimer just beat people up. This was one of those. They kind of went back and forth, very competitive. Paro did get offense in, but this was Latimer's moment to shine. He gets the win with the pile driver. The announcers went crazy, like, how did he pile drive Paro? It's like he didn't really hold him up in the air over his head or anything. He just held him for a pile driver. I felt like they got a little too overzealous with that. Next up, Odinson gets back in the ring. Odinson is used to being in the ring for a while because he did the whole war challenge last week by himself. He steps in, gets mugged by Latimer quick. Again, I want to see more Latimer matches like this. Odinson is able to get some momentum going. He's able to get back into control. He hit a couple floating. I call him floating because he literally looks like he's just floated across the ring to hit these European uppercuts. Like, just beautiful. I mean, you talk about wrestling being an art. That was beautiful. Then he connects with like a backbreaker on Latimer. Again, Odinson's looking like $1 million in these things. He's got he just drops Latimer down after the backbreaker, and then Adonis interferes by putting him in the full Nelson, or the master lock, excuse me. The referee counted to 4. He finally broke. The referee admonishes Adonis, then just sends him packing, disqualifies him from the Team War, which, again, he broke it before the 5 count. I don't know why the dismissal, but hey, that's the NWA. So then now that's the finals. It's Latimer versus Odinson, and they're still battling. It still goes back and forth, but eventually Latimer gets the wins. Strictly Business and Rudo win the $30,000 and the Team War bragging rights, and that's the end of the show. Kev, your thoughts real quick. What did you think?
I actually, believe it or not, I like the format. This was I didn't get to actually watch the Team War matches before this. Sorry, terrible fan. But I actually like the format. It's unique. It's different. And it doesn't not make sense. It's not just stupid. It's actually innovative. I actually think it's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind seeing more, like, you could have teams of like 5 on each side. And gosh, think about how long the wrestling could go, and all the things that could happen. What I didn't like about this, the only thing I really didn't like was that when he interfered, in reality, Jay, like, the 5 count shouldn't matter because Adonis isn't in the match. He's technically no one from the outside is in the match. So it should have been a disqualification, in my opinion, for the whole team. They should have been completely disqualified, period. Just because it just seems like bad, like something you shouldn't be able to do in something like this. That's just my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right, but a 5 count, what does that matter? He's not in the match yet. He's not even live yet. He's officially not even live. He's not even part of the match. He would be like outside interference. And what happens in outside interference? Somebody comes in, outside interferes, puts their hands on somebody else. That's it. Disqualified. So technically, Latimer should have got disqualified there. Like, it should have been like outside interference. So again, or however that works, it should be treated that way. But again, it's a new thing, so I get that maybe they're working through some of the rules for it. That's the only thing I didn't like. All in all, I felt like the match was pretty good. I enjoyed the format. Didn't mind Strictly Business winning. Didn't like Rodney Mack losing, but that's just personal. All in all, I really enjoyed the main event. I thought it was a true main event.
Kevin, let me ask you a question before we get to DKM. The victory for Strictly Business, does that help their cause for the Crockett Cup, or is it insignificant?
I mean, it should help their cause. I mean, if they're making Masters and Latimer a team, I mean, I think they would be as good a team as anybody to hold the gold in terms of being a tag team. So I don't hate it at all.
And then now, DK, let's get your thoughts. And then when you're done, also let me know what you think, if it helps them or hurts them.
Well, actually, I'll go in reverse. I don't think it hurts them at all. I don't know that it helps them, but it certainly doesn't hurt them. I think that this has kind of been missed, that this seemed to be like Latimer's coming out thing, and that he's kind of been the one that's been losing. And, he got the big win in this. Although, like Kevin said, he should have been disqualified. For a gimmick match, I think this one works better than a lot of the other crap they do, because at the heart of it, it's one-on-one wrestling. It's kind of a gauntlet. And so, at its heart, it's one-on-one wrestling. What you're watching is one-on-one wrestling in the ring. And so I think that's what made it work. I was actually kind of glad to see Strictly Business win. And, it worked. It was talented people putting on a good match. the whole thing this whole series did is make me want to see Odin as a singles wrestler.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's the one that should be challenging for the national title or the TV title. I'd like to see him take the TV title from Tyrus. Of course, at this point, I'd like to see anybody take the TV title from Tyrus. And even Simon. So, I mean, look, overall, let me just wrap up my entire thoughts on this. Overall, I enjoyed the show. I liked it.
Same.
I have no problem. They need to do this is how they need to format their shows. Clean up some sloppiness, sure, but a few interviews, wrestling, and good wrestling. And they need to take a page out of USA, stories that make, you know, a little bit of sense. So I'm willing to go with that. Because I know Jay's going to be asking this. If you want to follow me on social media, the only thing where I do wrestling is Twitter, which is at DKMFWTX on Twitter. Jay, why don't you wrap us up? Because quite frankly, I want to.
Well, real quick, Skarnek, how can they follow you on the socials?
Talk about me?
Yeah.
Yes.
How can they follow you on
Kevin
the
Lee
socials?
Frazier. Yeah, you can follow me, Kevin Lee Frazier, on Twitter or Instagram. You can also check out wrestling matches on YouTube. Kevin Douglas 247, or just Google or search Kevin Douglas Wrestling, and you'll get plenty of content on that. You know, and let's give it up for the NWA telling stories with wrestling matches this week instead of any other way besides that.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, we thank you for hanging out with us. We did go late tonight. I do want to say thank you again to David Fuller for joining us. Make sure if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you check out IHWE just ahead of WrestleMania weekend or part of WrestleMania weekend. Make sure you add that to your viewing habits, please. And then that's going to do it for us. So good job, NWA. We were happy this week. Keep it up. And next week we'll be recapping the events that happened at POWERRR TRIP. So should be fun. But until then, guys, and until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Good night now. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.